The story begins with the hero himself telling it. He says it is a bit sudden, but he was reincarnated in another world. He assumes that everyone will think he was reincarnated as a hero, but he himself says, I was reincarnated as a monster, more precisely, a half-human, half-orc. In the orc village, all the monsters tell him that his mother is a knight, and growl that he should not even dare to call himself an orc. They say he is the weakest even though he is the son of the village elder. They call him the shame of the orcs. The boy burns with anger but remains silent. A man approaches them and asks if he is playing with friends, and the troublemakers suddenly run away, shouting that night has come. A beautiful girl with long hair approaches, and the boy, offended, asks his mother what she wants. She asks if he was bullied again, says that no one forbids him to fight back, and the boy rudely replies, shut up. The mother sharply says, that's not how you talk to parents. His mother raised him differently, and the boy blames her, thinking that they treat him this way only because she is human. 2 years after rebirth, when he was still very small, he thought he was lucky he had such a beautiful mother. He enjoyed those moments when she breastfed him, but all that remained in the past. He tells his mother that because she is human, he looks the way he does and calls himself weak. He shouts, pointing a finger at his mother, that it would have been better if he had been born an orc. The mother repeats his words and smiles. The boy realized he was in trouble. She draws a sword, and from experience he knows his mother is most dangerous when she smiles. She tells him that he is right, he is weaker than other children, but does that make him weak? She swings and flies towards him, cutting through trees and stones, while the boy stands motionless, gripped by horror. She says with a serious face that she is a human woman, by orc standards barely stronger than a child, but through willpower, magic, and swordsmanship, training these skills, she managed to become strong. She already told him, you are weak because you do not want to be strong, that's all, she says, pointing the sword's tip directly at him. The boy falls silent. The mother smiles again, approaches him, takes his hands, and offers to train together and become stronger. The boy looks away. He steps aside and waves off, saying he does not need strength. What is the point of it in this peaceful village? And his intuition suggests that mom will give him Spartan training. She calls her son an orc and says he is wasting his talent. His body structure is closer to human, suitable for fencing. He also inherited her magical power and enhanced senses. Compared to other orcs, he is weaker, but his muscles are still stronger than humans. She says he has human skills and orc strength. If he trains, he can become the strongest. She again happily offers him to start training. He says he can manage without it. She seriously asks again why. Then she, smiling, says that if he is weak, good girls will not pay attention to him. The boy asks, stunned, what was she even smiling about? She replies by asking if he ever thought about becoming like his father, that strong man whom girls are drawn to. The boy thinks and thinks, as if they say that once his mother was the strongest knight of humanity. When he first met his father, he was then the demon lord and fought humans, so their first meeting took place right on the battlefield. After battles with thousands of monsters and victories in duels with countless famous swordsmen, she considered herself the strongest until she lost to her father and experienced defeat for the first time in her life. No matter what tricks and techniques she used, her father crushed them with his boundless strength, and then her mother fell in love. She tells him that she still remembers how she felt then. Her body and soul screamed how much she liked him. She believes that she was forced to accept that she is a woman, and that women desire to give birth to a strong child. She asks him to listen and says that if he does not become strong, he will have only two options: to live his whole life with an unattractive woman or remain without romantic experience until the end of his life, so she advises him to train. He says that he still does not want to become popular, and he does not find girls cute either. The boy cannot understand whether he has been reincarnated or just looks like a human. He finds his mother beautiful, but he would not say that about orcs. His mother tells him, you simply have never seen a cute girl. The world beyond this village is huge and full of cute girls. She tells him, don't worry, I believe in you. She believes that someday her son will say that he wants to become stronger and make girls obey and love him, but he himself thinks that his mother will never say this out loud. His mother asks, maybe we should go home. Today they have an important event that happens only once every 10 years. They have arrived. She tells her husband that she is home. A huge orc with a terrifying voice loudly announces, we have returned. The father turns to him and looks sternly at his son, while the mother approaches him to hug him, gently calls him cutie, and he calls her Miley with a tender smile and says hello. The orc says that at home, his father greets him sternly and briefly and says, today the tribal chiefs will gather. Many guests will come watch and learn. The meeting of the tribal chiefs is a time when the chiefs of the 8 allied tribes gather once every 10 years to strengthen their bonds, and by tradition, they bring their families with them. And today is the orc's first meeting. His mother, pointing at the table, says that everything looks so delicious. She asks him, is it worth it? He is silent. She asks again, and he says that he is not excited at all. The mother asks if he is not worried that other chiefs will bring their lovely daughters. The orc sternly says that this is exactly why he does not want to be here. Orcs have a custom how an orc should present himself. Of course, bringing home a girl from another race is a long-forgotten custom, even among adults. Only the father adhered to this custom. He shouts that all races hate them, the orcs, just because of this custom, and at that moment the mother approaches from behind and calls him. She asks him what worries him about this, and he sarcastically replies that maybe it is her way of thinking. He shouts that they are no better than animals. Has she even seen how children of other races look at them? She explains that a true orc does not take women by force against their, well, the orc tenses. She calmly says that only trash forces women to have sex, and she will agree only if she herself is happy about it. He asks if he understood correctly that this is from her personal experience. She smiles and says that he still has a lot to learn about romance she will teach him. She lists how to check if a woman really does not like being forced to have sex. Women can say they do not like it, but the body will not lie, so the boy interrupts and asks her to stop to distinguish the truth. Later in the same hall, 3 of them were sitting, and the father said that they were here at the threshold of the doors. Other race leaders appeared and said they had arrived. Among them were elves, demons, beastmen, dwarves, and others, all of them united with orcs, a race the girl had never seen due to her secluded life. Then he notices something else. Magical girls enter, and he opens his mouth in surprise. The girls come in beautiful attire. The orcs say they are cute. He thinks these girls do not look like orcs at all. The elves have magical golden hair and light green eyes. He wants to caress her for many years. The fox race has fox ears and fluffy tails. He wants to touch them. About another girl, he says she seems so fleeting that he wants to hug her. He cannot take his eyes off the contrast of her black wings and snow-white skin. He wants to get these girls at any cost. The mother smiles, looks at him, and says that these are the girls, asking if he would rather get to know them better. The orc nods convincingly as the adults finish the difficult conversation. Finally, it's time to have fun. They will be able to talk a lot and get to know each other better, and then he secretly plans to escape from the reception. Later, he sits on the roof, looks at the thin crescent moon, sighs, and sadly bows his head. He did not approach any of them. In fact, they deliberately kept their distance from him and completely ignored him. He was not even given a chance to try to talk to them. The mother approaches and looks at him sternly. She says the meeting is over. The girls have already gone home. She sits next to him. Finally, he admits that he could not get along with them. She asks why he raises his eyes so sadly. Through tears, he says it is because he is an orc, and girls of other races hate orcs. He angrily says that it would have been better never to have met them than to endure this, and she cuts in that he is right, they hate them, but it is not only about that. She reminds him that he is weak. She explains that orcs possess a secret power, a power that reveals the true nature of a woman. He, puzzled, asks her, "What are you talking about?" She replies that although he considers his mother bad, all women want to accept a good man into the family. She says that he can strengthen this desire. In short, the stronger he is, the more chances there are that women will be drawn to him. He asks in surprise if she is lying. She answers that she is not lying and adds he was rejected not because of his race, but because of weakness. She exclaims that if he becomes strong, one meeting with a girl will be enough, and she will beg him to be with her. The boy thinks that orcs are the coolest, and is glad he was born an orc. Suddenly he jumps up and confidently declares that he will become so strong that every girl will want to be with him. Mom says that finally what she has been waiting for has happened. These words. He says that after seeing these cuties, he will never agree to be with an orc woman. He will become strong. He asks his mom to make him strong. She replies that he can count on her. The hero of Azure Storm makes him the strongest man. 4 years remain until the coming-of-age ceremony. This is more than enough. He says that when he grows up, he will go on a journey and meet many women. The mother looks at him, moved by the fact that he has grown into such a wonderful man. The orc believes that if he becomes strong, he will be able to have relationships with cute girls, so to make this dream come true, he decided to start training with his mother. The mother now suggests starting, and he is shocked. Really, right now? She really laughs since it is already night and asks, does he seriously think they have an extra second? She firmly says that in the 4 years before his coming-of-age ceremony, he must become the strongest. He mumbles that so much has happened today, and he is tired. The mother initially agrees sadly, but then takes out some medicine and says that it will help him forget about fatigue and pain. She says with a smile that if he drinks it, his head will explode and he will stop feeling pain. He shouts that this drug is dangerous. Does she hear him? Fatigue is an important signal from the body. You need to rest. The mother is wildly outraged. She really had to ask friends to help prepare for this day. The orc says he understands and asks where his training sword is. She asks again what he is talking about, because learning the art of the sword at his current level of physical and mental endurance would mean condemning himself. She starts running and says that the foundation of foundations is to train the body, and running is the best option for this. She shouts to him, "Run, try not to fall behind," and the boy obediently gets up and runs after her. During this, the boy thinks that he is not tired at all. They have been running for 3 hours already, but he really is not tired at all. But his body clearly can no longer move, as he wants it seems to be bursting at the seams from constant exhaustion. Mother says that it seems he is close to the limit. She activates regeneration, and he immediately heals. Mom tells the orc that training must push his body beyond the possible, breaking it so that it adapts and can withstand the load. And since they cannot wait for the body to recover on its own, they will infuse magic into him to activate and accelerate natural recovery and heal the damaged body. This is a secret training method passed down in the royal family of Forland. 3 days and 3 nights, and any weakling will become as strong as an ordinary soldier. The boy, shocked, asks if they really have to run for 3 days. She smiles and says, "Yes, you will train your body for 3 days and 3 nights, and by constantly crossing your limits, you will harden your mind and heart. I will not let you sleep." The boy tensely says that she is a demon. The orcs catch up to him, distract him, and insist that he is finished. The boy runs. The mother says that this is how it should be, let him eat the cake, and he asks what kind of cake she gives him every hour. She smiles and says that it is incredible, powerful food created by a great sage, containing all the necessary nutrients and helping to maintain water balance in the body. The boy froze in surprise upon hearing about the great sage. She asks how she obtained them, answers that her teacher has them, although now they just drink together, and she likes to tell him about how her son is growing. The boy says that he no longer cares. They have been running for the 2nd day already. His mind is almost at the limit. Mother does something. Behind them, the presence of a monster is felt. The boy got scared and screamed, stumbling from fright. He asks what she did. She replies that she just calmed her urge to kill and nothing more. She smiles and asks him what he thinks. His mother has an incredible thirst for killing. If his legs relax even for a second, she will let him go again. She asks if he understands. The boy shouts that she scares him. At that moment, his whole life flashed before his eyes, and in fact, she had been running beside him for these 2 days. He calls her a monster. He believes that she is an incredible person, and this training yields results. He feels his body becoming stronger and stronger, and his mother, probably in the deepest part of her soul, is confident that this is the best way to train him. She tells him that only 1 day remains and asks him to speed up. He shouts to her, "Wait." He shouts that he will go crazy like this, and his mother says that this must not be allowed no matter how effective the training is. If he finishes it without motivation, the results will sharply deteriorate. She tells him that in such moments it is worth shouting. A shout can inspire if you loudly name your goal, and he wonders, after everything that has happened, will they really rely on this? She says that attitude is extremely important because ultimately it is the strength of his feelings that pushes him forward. When she asks why he wants to become strong, he answers that it doesn't even need to be asked. When the orc saw Cutie from other races, his whole world turned upside down. His mother orders him, "Obey and shout loudly what you desire." The orc is sure he will definitely get them and they will be only his, and his mother says to shout on 3. He shouts about his desire again and again. His mother urges him faster, and he shouts throughout the forest so that all the other orcs hear. They form a circle. He does not stop shouting about his desire. The other orcs consider him crazy, and another thinks that it is all because of them. Night comes, the boy falls to the ground and shouts that this is the end, and his mother says that 3 days of hellish training are over. She says that his body and mind are already strong enough to endure her training under normal circumstances. It would have taken him 3 months to become so resilient. He casts a suspicious look at his mother. She gently strokes his head and says that he is good, and at home he should eat well, wash up, and rest. Then he adds that he gives him only about an hour and a half, and he is outraged that this is not enough. Mother picks him up in her arms and whispers, "Release your spiritual energy and let it flow through your body. Then even an hour and a half of sleep will feel like 6. They have 4 years left, so they will have to count his sleep too." Falling asleep, the boy thinks that if they continue training at this pace for another 4 years, he doubts he will live to that day. Later, he feels his mother stroking him, something warm spreading through his body. Is this really spiritual energy? How pleasant it is for him. Father approaches them and says, "Finally, I have decided to become strong." Mother replies that it is true. She was delighted and surprised that he managed to run to the end, but he is a son. Father says, "Become strong a little more, and it may become too late." Mother whispers that they do not know how long he can restrain the power flowing in his veins. Father says the power is too great. The boy will not endure, so it must be sealed. Even the orc does not understand what they are talking about. Isn't he training because he is weak? He hears Mother say that it is funny. The hero and the demon lord were crushed by an uncontrollable 5-year-old boy. She wants to tell him everything, wants to say that he inherited his father's power. Father says that Orc is their child and will one day be able to master this power, and Mother agrees and says she cannot wait for that day. Mother turned to the man and asked, "Could he stop speaking the Orc language? When we are alone, I barely understand him." Father drops the dialect, switches to simple English, and says that if he does not speak like that constantly, he might make a mistake someday that old him was quite famous. The boy listens and understands nothing of their conversation. Mother tells the man that he is already disguised, but still fears that his manner of speaking will give him away. He sighs, says there is nothing to be done, he is the Orc leader. He must live up to his status. She replies that is exactly why she asked him to speak like that only when alone. The boy does not understand at all, squints, and thinks this is some kind of dream. What hero? What demon lord? Father speaks so freely that he decides he is definitely asleep, so he should sleep a little more. Tomorrow there will be Spartan training again with Mom. Meanwhile, some strangers in the cart are writing something. One says that it is already visible, the other that this is an Orc village where Miley lives. Mom makes an offer to the Orc and says that today she will give herself to him fully, and he says that it is still dark outside and asks why she is still so cheerful, didn't she run with him nonstop? She replied that it is all because she knows how to use spiritual energy. She can stay awake for 10 days without problems, and her fight with his father lasted 2 weeks. The boy thought to himself that they are monsters. Outside he asks if they will train with swords today. She answers yes, or rather, she would like to say yes, but first he needs to meet with his teachers who will help him become the strongest. He asks why. He thought she would teach him everything herself. She replies that she cannot teach him everything alone. She explains that she can only teach him how to use spiritual energy, sword techniques, and a bit of magic, and he asks will that be enough, and didn't she say that it would take 10 years to become a sword master? She says that is true, so he will have to train at least 20 times harder than usual. Those 3 days were just a preliminary test, and the boy asks if that run was really only a trial. They approach the wagon. Mom says here they are. The Orc tenses, and at first a big and heavy man comes out of the wagon. He addresses Miley Forland, that is the Orc's mother, saying they haven't seen each other for a long time, calls her the heroine of Azure Thunder, and thanks her for the invitation. They hold hands. This is Mr. Halfland Oral. She says she's glad to see him in good health, and he smiles and says that he can finally thank her for everything she taught him, and will pass all the knowledge to her son, with which he created the company Land Oral Low. The Orc is surprised. What kind of company is Land Oral? Isn't it the most successful human company that sells everything from socks to weapons, goods for every taste? He doesn't believe that this is the same Land Oral. Here is the man who made that company, what it is today, the god of merchants, and he cannot understand how it happened that his monstrous mother was able to call someone like him. Then he gets out of the cart. He is tall. The first thing he says, I can't believe the boss really got married. He says he didn't think the Death Princess could change so much. He suggests talking about the old times and is sure his stories will make her boy cry. Miley smiles and asks him not to mention the past in front of her son. He doesn't want her to punish him, and she mockingly calls him Crybaby Roland Bell. Orc and Roland Bell tense up. Orc feels that the name Roland Bell sounds very familiar to him. Miley asks him to teach her son martial arts and spiritual energy control, and he agrees. He swears on the honor of the king of martial arts, Roland Bell, that he will make her son a great fighter. Orc suddenly remembers this is the king of martial arts himself, Roland Bell, 3-time tournament champion, the strongest among humans, and a true master of hand-to-hand combat. He began to realize that his mother knew that merchant and that man, but how they are connected he does not understand. Meanwhile, a third person gets out of the cart. He turns around and, overwhelmed with horror, fumbles in his pocket and takes out coins with a man's face. Raising his gaze, he realizes the third man is on the coin. Seeing Miley, a smile appears on his face. He says she should move from this Orc village to the castle. Miley calls him Grandpa and says she likes it here. Orc tenses, what Grandpa? The man bows and says, if you are happy, I am glad. When I found out you were marrying an Orc, I was shocked, but seeing your smile, I am glad you got married. The man looks at Orc, asks if he is his great-great-grandson, pats his head, and says he will raise him as the next heir to the throne, teach him everything he needs to know how to understand politics and laws. Here is the former King Vorio, Forland the Wise. They cannot find a better teacher. The Orc is stunned by this. He asks his mother what it means. Am I really the great-grandson of the former king? The mother, surprised, asks again, didn't I tell him? She explains that before she married his father, she was a princess of the kingdom of Forland, and she was also chosen as a heroine. She says that everyone who came today are her friends and relatives. They have known each other for a long time. He, in shock, asks why she married an Orc and lives in some unfamiliar place. Grandfather shoves food into his mouth and says eat. he asks if the wise Vorios really treat him with sweets. Miley says that it seems one is missing. Grandfather says that even compared to them, his schedule is even busier. The orc wonders if there is another one. Roland Bell says he came at the boss's request, but in fact he really wants to meet this person. Health says he also wants to. Without him, their company would never have become so big. The orc thinks he must be an incredible person if everyone respects him so much. Suddenly he flies up on huge wings. Everyone looks at the sky. These wings land and turn into some incomprehensible mass. The orc wonders if it is slime. He feels something strange. All three arrivals begin to tremble. Miley bows sharply, and with her everyone else except the orc. Miley says they were waiting for him and called the teacher slime, and the slime itself made some sounds. The orc is sure anyone who feels magic would immediately understand what absurdity this is. Such a thing simply cannot be. Like a star, if it unleashed its power, it could destroy a country in minutes. Why does slime, the weakest monster, have such power? The slime suddenly transformed into a man shrouded in a dark aura, and Roland Bell whispered that this was the legendary sage Merlin and Light. Merlin and Light, a name that echoes in countless stories and legends, etched in the history of humans and monsters. A great sage, a great hero, a living legend, said to have accelerated the development of human civilization by 300 years. Merlin and Light return to Miley, and Light says that although he may have already granted her the right to one request, when it comes to teaching her son, he wanted to say something more. He does not refuse his, and adds that he might be very much like her. Miley thanks him for agreeing to listen and accept her selfish request. Marilyn and Light asks her to lift her head. He also has a daughter, so he understands her feelings. He firmly says that teaching someone without talent is a waste of time and asks permission to assess her son. He approaches the orc and places his hand on his head. Silence falls. He says that his potential is enough to accept him for training, although he is inferior to his third daughter, and Meili apologizes and adds that the real talent of her orc lies in swordsmanship and spiritual energy. Merlin and Light turns and says no, his second daughter is better. The orc asks about pure power. He replies that overall it's not bad, but his daughters are still better than him, especially because they're cute. The orc stands between them and listens awkwardly. Merlin says she would freeze if she saw his daughters with her own eyes, but asks her to forget about it, and adds that he will not allow them to meet this embodiment of bad qualities. Miley shouts loudly that it is precisely because the orc is the embodiment of bad traits that he is cool. The orc in the background asks his mother not to say that, and asks her not to agree that he is the embodiment of bad traits. Miley coughs and says that now all the teachers are gathered. He turns to the orc and adds that these are the best teachers she has gathered to make him the strongest. The orc shouts that she has clearly overdone it. He points at them and says that with them, one can conquer the world, and in general, he will never be able to learn so much at once, and Miley replies that under normal circumstances, yes. She smiles and tells him that he will have to break the usual boundaries and start hammering all this knowledge into his head. Nothing is impossible. The orc asks if it is worth going so far to become stronger, and she confidently replies, of course. She explains that if he loses his sword, he can rely on his fists, that is, hand-to-hand combat. He wants to please many lovely girls, and for that he needs a bunch of resources, so he needs to understand the economy to fit into human society, know their history, how power works, and what laws exist here. Knowledge about governing the country will come in handy, and all this will definitely help him meet lovely girls. The orc believes she is right. If he does not have at least this knowledge, meetings with the best girls will remain only a dream for him. With bitterness in his heart, he realized he was wrong. The road to the harem is much harder than he could imagine. All these outstanding people gathered here. Thanks to their knowledge, he will be able to become a perfect person and finally gain popularity. He shouts at his mother and teachers to take care of him, and then all the girls will belong to him. His mother was touched by his words, and the 4 teachers clapped their hands. At that moment, he could not even imagine that during training, they would use medicine, magic, and other tricks, and that even hell would seem like paradise compared to his education. The mother hands the orc a piece of paper and says that this is his training schedule. He calmly begins to read, and suddenly, he is overwhelmed with horror. He wonders, is this a 4-year schedule where everything is planned down to the second? Seeing a star, he asks his mother what this symbol means. She says that it shows the day when the great sage Merlin created and light can use a time crack where the flow of time is slowed. 20 days inside equal 1 day outside. He is surprised, is anything impossible for the great sage? The orc says that today is a starry day, but he has an incredibly bad feeling about all this. Mother says that Roland Bell is first in line. He agrees and says that first he will instill in him knowledge about how to use spiritual energy. Mother says that in these 20 days, she wants him to teach the orc the basics from her sensation to the ability to concentrate at will, if possible. Roland Bell asks her if she understands that to reach that level requires a lot. She smiles and says that she is just an ordinary person, allows him to be as tough as he wants. He is her child. Killing him is not so easy, especially since he is gifted. Roland Bell agrees and says to him, "Don't whine if you die." The orc behind wonders why they were so carefree about this. Marilyn in Light gets to work. He stretches out his hands, magical circles appear around. Roland Bell shouts at the orc to follow him, calls him the boss's son and asks his name, to which he replies, "Orc." He smiles and says he understands, introduces himself as Roland Bell, and asks to be called teacher. They either jump into a portal or scream out of fear and find themselves in an entirely white space, where a sandglass stands before them. The orcs see this and are amazed. Roland Bell says he hasn't been here for a long time back when he traveled with his mother. Once he was defeated by a strong opponent, and in despair he fled here and began training. The orc asks if they traveled with the mother, and he answers that it's true they went to save the world, but in fact that same enemy turned out to be his father. The orc begins to think, did their father really crush everyone? Mother, Roland Bell, Merton, and Letta, how strong is he? The orc mumbles that he has a lot of questions, but first of all now asks, what about food? There is none at all. He says that as soon as he learns to use spiritual energy, 20 days without food will not be a problem for him, and asks, isn't this energy too convenient? Roland Bell says that they will not be able to get out until all the sand in the hourglass has run out, so he suggests starting the lesson. First, he asks him what he knows about spiritual energy. He answers briefly. He only knows that it is a convenient power. He says that it is the very life force. It is in every living being, so first of all he decides to teach him to feel spiritual energy. The orc recalls how his mother said that he was especially skilled at this. Roland Bell thinks for a moment, then puts his hand on the orc's shoulder. He feels that something is wrong and instantly pulls back. He asks what just happened. He says he just concentrated a drop of energy in his hand. If that did not awaken his senses, then there is nothing special in him. He says it feels like a weight has been lifted from his shoulders. After the method he is going to use, people usually die. In fact, many have already perished. At first, he did not dare to use this disgusting method, but now he is sure that everything will go as it should. The orc tenses sharply. Roland Bell says sternly, "Don't you dare die," and then suddenly approaches and places his palm on his stomach. As if a force pierced the stomach and passed through him, the orc flew far back and howled in horror because there was a large black hole in his stomach. Roland Bell tells him to calm down and listen. Spiritual energy is the energy of life, so it is felt most strongly precisely when he is on the brink of death, and that is why he caused him so much harm to send him there. Then he tells him that if he does nothing, he will die in a few minutes. It is unlikely to bring him back to consciousness, but it will awaken the natural survival instinct. Now that he is on the edge of life and death, he must be able to feel his life energy. He tells the orc to awaken this feeling so that a clear image appears in his head. The orc only groans, saying that he is in pain and that he is dying. Roland Bell tells him that he will be defeated and die. Soon in 20 days, he will master what usually takes 5 years, and he must at least be ready to risk his life. The orc lies and understands that he will not save him. He does not want to die. He is sure that he will not die. He remembers that he has not yet stroked the elf's ears, has not yet buried his face in the tail of the cute beastman, and has not smelled him. He still has to conquer the cute girls, so dying is out of the question for him. Suddenly, a huge power enlightened him. Roland Bell turns around and looks at the orc in shock. He shouts that the power they subconsciously used to survive. He feels it something invisible to the eyes, and he feels it. He tries to concentrate everything even more in one point, and his huge wound begins to heal. The hole closes, leaving only a scar on the stomach. He feels this warmth, this spiritual energy, gets up and says to Roland Bell, "Because of you, I almost died." Roland Bell smiles and says that he is not dead, and what usually takes 3 years to learn, he did in about 5 minutes. Roland Bell throws him a potion and tells him to drink. It belongs to Merlin of Light. Maybe it healed the wound, but the fatigue remains. He asks if this is spiritual energy, the same thing he calls warmth, and in response hears, "Exactly, I feel it," so he understood the basics. He says that the next step is to pour this energy into their bodies, and it will take them 20 days. The orc understands he feels it. Intuition whispers that by accumulating this energy in the body, he will be able to become stronger. He asks Roland Bell how to do this. Roland answers that he will have to figure it out himself, not because Roland does not want to help, but because this method is different for everyone, so he needs to find his own by trial and error. Roland Bell began doing fingertip push-ups and breathing heavily, said that he lost too much blood today, so he advised him not to overexert himself, and then barked for him not to relax, otherwise he would beat him. The orc says he will try, but will not hold back. He needs to learn to use this power, even a second faster, to cope as quickly as possible. Roland Bell wonders if he is already at that level, but the boss said it not out of fatherly affection. He admits that now he is a little jealous. Finally, Roland Bell and the orc return and meet the mother in the forest. The mother greets them both on their return, and he says that he has returned. Miley enthusiastically says that she is impressed by how much he has changed. She asks how the training is going, and Roland Bell asks the orc to show her. The orc immediately says that now he can only accumulate spiritual energy, and immediately shows the whole process. Miley looks at him tensely and asks if he really achieved all this in 20 days and if Roland Bell is such a brilliant teacher. He replies that no, he is not. The orc is the real genius, and no matter how good a teacher he was, he would not have achieved such a result. The orc thought to himself that it was good that he trained so hard these 20 days. Miley says that now they will move on to today's schedule and suggests dividing the session into 2 parts: first physical training, then learning. He has to sleep for an hour and a half, just enough for a nap, and the orc sarcastically grumbled that, well, that's just great, nothing surprising in such a schedule, quite manageable. He says that by becoming stronger, he will be able to attract the attention of a girl, so why does he need to study? She says he is right. If he becomes strong enough, he will be able to attract her attention. She adds that this is not the end yet, and a long finale begins. He will have to make his wife and child happy, and for that, knowledge and means are needed. The orc begins to understand that even if he becomes popular and attracts the attention of girls, if his beloved suffers because of him, he will not be better than the same loser. The orc shouts at his mother that she opened his eyes. He will do everything to become a worthy man. Miley exclaims, "That's the spirit, time to study." Then his training schedule became even more intense. Grandpa tells the orc that he is doing well, calling him his dear grandson. He placed a pile of books in front of him and said sternly, "Now memorize the contents of all these historical volumes. This is basic knowledge. You have 2 days for this. If you can't handle such a trifle, you can forget that he agreed to teach you." And the orc suddenly realized that they were in a bookstore. Orc shouts that this is nonsense. It will take at least a week to read all this. Miley asked the boy directly, was he lying when he said he wanted to become a worthy man? Miley says that if he doesn't do it, his mother will treat him that way. He understands this and says that it is a very dangerous sound and that he will definitely perish. Maryland N. Light says that he has prepared a potion for him that will help him concentrate and improve memory. It will speed up his brain to incredible speeds. He tells him not to worry, he will be able to restore it even if he dies, or Keel better manage to do it before he dies. Then he simply decides to start and reads. The orc reads and thinks that the lessons after the basics turned out to be interesting. All the information he remembered and gathered together turned into a chain of history. But the final exam, in which he, as a representative of the king, had to unite the people of a small country, almost drove him to the edge. There is chaos in the country, a civil war is ongoing, one wrong order from him, and thousands will die. It seemed to him that from all this stress he aged several years. The same applied to Landurla's economics lessons. He not only honed his mathematical skills, but also began to instill business knowledge. In the final test, he was suddenly thrown into another country with 1,000 gil in his hands, and he had to open a shop and multiply profits many times over in 3 months. He wonders if this is even possible. The last, but by no means the best, were magic lessons from the great sage, who was clearly not from this world. Marilyn and Light tell him that the magic he is about to be taught will kill a fool on the first attempt to use it, so he asks him to take the risk and learn from mistakes. "Don't be afraid," he says. "Thanks to this elixir you will not die by expanding your knowledge of potions. You will also peer into the abyss called magic." He calms him again. "Don't be afraid, even if he dies, he will be able to bring him back to normal." The orc asks if he is now a test subject. And then sword training with his mother. She says that now he will feel what it is like to die 10,000 times. The orc does not understand what she is talking about at all. She says that just before death, he sees the world as if in slow motion. If he can enter that state whenever he wants, won't he become the strongest? Suddenly she runs up to him, the sword right in front of his face. The blow is so powerful that his brain begins to believe he is dead. And this was repeated thousands of times. It was hard and scary, but under the guidance of the teachers, he could not retreat. He stopped being weak. Days and months flew by, and so 4 years passed. Time flew. Training was finally over. All his teachers were shining with joy, and in a few days he would leave the orc village and set out on a journey. The orc's father says it is time to set out on a journey. The orc smilingly calls him dad. The father calls him after because they need to have a serious talk. The orc suddenly finds himself right in front of his mother and father. He does not understand and asks why they are in festive clothes, and the mother asks him to listen to them. She says that mom and dad were hiding something from him. Dad says that his strength is weak, so they are teaching him human skills. He begins to say that thanks to this he has accelerated. He shouts, "How can you explain anything here when you talk like that?" The orc shouts, but still speaks quite normally. He suddenly realizes that the dream was real. The father admits that he was once a lord of demons, but has long been at peace. Everything is complicated, and it would be very bad if someone recognized him. The orc, stunned, only whispered, "How could you drop such a bomb on me so suddenly?" Suddenly his father changes his appearance and becomes an ordinary man, a man with luxurious long hair. The orc shouted that he had transformed now too. The father says that he is an orc and all orcs can transform, it's normal. The son shouts that he is lying, only he from the whole village did this. The father says that whatever form he takes, he still remains himself. It was in this form that he was the lord of demons. He never told him, but this is not an ordinary orc village at all. He does not understand what he is talking about. Father begins to explain that there are many orcs, low orcs, orc chieftains, orc warriors, and they are all orcs that evolve. When a woman of another race gives birth to their child, that child inherits her strong traits. This transformation skill is also one of those acquired in this way. The orc believes that inheriting only strong traits to produce even stronger offspring is much more effective than selective breeding. He asks, "Is this a lie? Then what kind of monster is this? Maybe he really is like that, but what about the other villagers and what about himself?" The father says that evolving orcs have a serious flaw. The gene of a child born from a member of the same race is reset. He will be born an ordinary orc. One single mosaic and the work of millennia will be in vain. He says that everyone from his great-grandfather's generation, except the tribal chief, decided to act this way, so the village became like this, and the orcs shout, "Why? Why throw everything under the knife?" He answers that they decided this not because they wanted to, but because they continued to develop and become stronger and eventually reached their limit. Power grows and they begin to lose control over it. Someone dies before adulthood. Someone goes insane and flies into a wild rage. If it had continued like this, evolving orcs would have become extinct, so they had to act this way. When the question arose to save the tribe or to chase power, they chose the former and keep it secret to prevent another tragedy caused by the pursuit of power. The orc asked his father why he was born so strong, and the father replied that the blood of the tribe's chieftain was special. It stretched back several generations, and everything was supposed to end with him. He realized that the next generation would not endure and would break, so he, however, thought to marry someone from their tribe. He tightly embraces Miley and says he wants a child from his mother, after which they kiss, and the orc watches this with disgust. He says he understood the essence, but it explains nothing why he was born weak. The father does not understand this because the son inherited all the father's strength and also the strength of the mother, the strongest person in history. They tell him that he was too strong. On his 5th birthday, he exploded with rage. He asks if he knows about the lake beyond that mountain. He replies that there used to be a forest there. He broke through a hole, water rushed in, and now they have a lake. He says that the demon lord, the hero, together with the 4 supreme demon lords, the hero's squad, and the great sage Merlin and Light tried all possible ways and eventually managed to tame him. The orc finally began to think and understood this is the thing. Now he knows why he remembers nothing about those times. They tell him that eventually Merlin and Light sealed his power as an evolving orc, which weakened him, and today Merlin and Light will give him the last lesson how to remove this seal. The orc asks in surprise if it can be removed, and Miley says that all that training was so that he could handle this power. The orc asks if Mom made him train exactly like that so that nothing would happen to him if the seal was suddenly removed, and Mom replies, maybe it's in vain. The probability that he will lose control forever is 80-90. She smiles and says that is exactly why they postponed removing the seal until the end. She only wanted to protect what was dear to her. But now, if the seal suddenly breaks, she will be powerless. The orc looks at her tensely. The mother finishes the sentence. He will return by the power of love, and the orc says that is too scary and decides to refrain. Silence fell, and Mom says that is all they wanted to say. They wanted to tell him about it before they parted. She says they burdened him with too heavy a load. They caused him a lot of pain. The orc closes his eyes. He sincerely thanks them for telling him the truth. Whatever this power is, he is happy to inherit it from Dad and Mom. Mom rushed into his arms. Through tears, she says she is incredibly happy. Honestly, she was afraid he would hate her. The orc asks her to stop. Silence falls again. Father approaches them. The orc thinks maybe Mother's head is a little off. Her love for him is sincere. Suddenly, Miley feels something. He steps back. His father and the orc tense up. A dark force appears from the ceiling. The ceiling cracked and they discovered it was teleportation magic. Is it possible that someone possesses magic of such a highest level, and they ask who it could be? A little fairy flies up to them and greets him, and the whole family looks at her with distrust. The fairy says everything is correct. He was chosen as the king of the fairies. She says he is lucky. He will receive the power of the fairy king and a sign as proof of this. The orc's hand suddenly hissed. He looked and saw some sign on his palm. The fairy tells him to follow her now. But she disgustedly realizes it is an orc and shouts that the fairy king has gone mad. It can't be. Does she really have to become the orc's guide? The orc thinks there is something wrong with this berry's head. She broke into a stranger's house and babbles nonsense. Orc shouted to the fairy. She got scared. The orc looked at her intently and then said that she was beautiful, a true delight for the eyes. The fairy panics at such words and shouts that she cannot believe it, so the king is disgusting to her. Miley tells her son that he has become so wonderful. Who would have thought that a fairy would bother him? The orc says that it is a typical orc joke, and she replies, "What a disgusting joke." The orc shouts at her to forget it, and asks why she is here and what is that mark on his hand, and she with a serious face says that he was chosen by the king of the fairies, and he must become a hero. The orc asks if he was really seriously chosen as a hero, and the fairy answers yes, she is here to inform him about it. The orc asks if it is really possible to regain the hero's power honestly. It will only bring problems, so he better refuses her. The fairy first smiles, then screams in horror that a human would dance with joy and immediately accept her, unlike these orcs. The orc says that to her misfortune, he is an orc and is only interested in women, but due to the size difference he will not be able to use this, so he finally asks to go home with her, and the fairy screams that he is so stupid she does not know how to react. She still does not understand why the king of fairies chose such a creature as a hero. The orc shouts, "Who is this? Tell her," and his childhood friends turn out to be herbivores, although they often mocked him before. All of them, along with him, grew up to be respected adults and became good friends. At a meeting, he was asked if he would go on a journey, and the orc replied that he would go looking for women. Those three orcs thought about women from the outside world. One was told that his mother was a real beauty. He thought so too, but hid his envy, so because of this he was teased. Orc recalls that meeting and says that he takes back his words, they really are animals. The orc says that it is indeed so, shows the sign, and asks the fairy if he can return it to her. The fairy categorically replies, no, he was chosen once, so forever. The fairy, as if smiling, says that it seems he misunderstood. No one forces the hero to fulfill his duty, he can only use this power. The orc asked if this would not create problems for the fairy king. She said he need not worry about that, he is destined to defeat those whom the fairy king considers a threat, and the orc did not understand this. The fairy explains that there is a fairy king, the supreme being who protects this world, and grants the hero's power to those destined to stand against the threat. The orc asks to be corrected if he is wrong, because as a hero, he is not obliged to obey or accept orders from the fairy king. The fairy says he will learn all the details from Miley. She is his predecessor. Miley says the fairy told the truth because the mother herself decided to fight. The fairy sighs heavily and says how tired she is. What other orc could be a hero? There has never been one like this. She flies up and looks the orc straight in the eyes. She tensed and asked Miley, what did you do? What kind of monster is this? How could he already have heroic power if it was not given to him, and now it is twice as strong? Miley says that it is a useful power, so she asked her friend to make it transferable, but the fairy exploded and shouted, do not dare to dispose of the power of the fairy king. She is in panic and says that if she continues to pass it on, one day the world will be filled with heroes. Miley calms her down. Do not worry, only one person can do that. The orc realized to himself that it is most likely the great sage Merlin. God, how much does he already owe him? The orc asks if his mother passed her hero's power to him. Deep inside, he feels a power very similar to the one given to him by this sign. He says that it has been sleeping inside him all this time, so he decides to wake it up. He searches for this warmth deep inside himself and finally finds it. He gathers it in his left hand, and the sign appears on the other hand. He tells Miley to look on both his hands, there are marks visible. Miley claps her hands excitedly and exclaims how cute he is, and the fairy is even more shocked. The orc says that since there are two of them, let's call them double fairy marks. The fairy shouts that there can't be more than one. No one knows what will happen if there are two. The orc says he feels an incredible energy bursting out and adds that this is the hero's power, given by the fairy king. He imagines fairies in his head. He feels that all the fairies within hundreds of kilometers around are flying here. Usually to borrow power from fairies, you first have to perform a complex ritual, but now they themselves have come to ask him to use their power. The fairy got angry and shouted that she doesn't care. Even if this world is destroyed, Miley advises her to calm down, but the fairy screams at her that it's her fault. She used to be so sincere and punctual, but after meeting that orc she went crazy. The orc says he's just glad he's not forced to solve other people's problems, and the fairy stops before flying away. The orc says that he will have to defeat only those whom the fairy king considers a threat, so the fairy can safely return. She shouts in rage that he didn't need to say anything, she will return anyway. She calls out that sometimes she has business with the authorities. that she will drop by and even consult with him just so he doesn't forget to prepare juice for her. The orc says that she is interesting, and Miley says that he was chosen as a hero, so Mom is proud of him. The orc thought that maybe he should admit he was lucky to gain such a useful power. Moreover, when he felt the hero's power, he also felt another hidden orcish might, sealed by a great sage. The orc appears in the light before Merlin, calls some teacher, and asks permission to take part in his last lesson. He says that between them in the village there are 2 mountains. There are no other villages or settlements nearby. Maryland and Light warn him. The power sleeping within him is extremely dangerous. He returns to him and says that he has 2 options to study this seal and forever rely on the stability of this power, or to seal it completely, forget about it, and move on. He says that he invented an improved sealing technique with which he can live his whole life in peace. The orc decisively says that he has already decided, asks to be told about this seal, and adds that he will not reject either his blood or his power. The teacher asks if he desires power. He sincerely says that he does not oppose it, but fears losing it even more. This power is the pinnacle of the work of all his predecessors and his father. It is part of him and makes him who he is now. Marilyn Inlight says that this is a good answer, then suggests moving on to the last lesson. He will share with him everything he learns about seals. The orc gladly agrees. Then the great sage Merlin and Light taught him everything about seals. It is incredibly complex and hard to understand, but thanks to what he was taught for 4 years, he has already mastered it. He believes that the teacher tried to make him understand by instilling all the necessary knowledge and techniques into his head. Finally, he taught him the technique of applying the seal so that he himself could use it, and if the seal ever comes off, he could handle it himself. Merlin and Light tell him that now he knows everything about seals, so they move on to practice, and he asks him to try to release his power. He also says, remember, his seal consists of 3 parts. If you remove the first, you can use the compressed part of his power. Remove the second half. Remove the third completely, but keep in mind, the more power you release, the harder it will be to seal it again. The orc understands him, clenches his fists, and launches anti-release as if chains are breaking. Life energy lashes down his back, and he screams. In an instant, he transforms into a giant monster, screams, and starts hitting everything around, destroying the ground. In the distance stands Merlin and Light. He notices him and breaks the wall on which he stood. Merlin and Light says this is only a 5th part, but already such power, and along with his growth, his power has increased, and he finds it interesting. The orc's fist flies straight at Merlin in the glow, but he simply grabs that huge hand and throws him in a turn. Merlin in the glow says, "What a pity." He screams that it's shameful to lose his head over such a small outburst, and still dares to call himself his student. The orc thinks and recalls all the lessons. He must remember his goal. All this training is not to go crazy from this power. He remembers his name, Orc. He is a warrior who was taught and raised by 5 best teachers. He reincarnates Merlin, and Light says that he has finally come to his senses, calling him a foolish student. Orc apologizes for showing him his ugly side. Merlin in Light says that it seems he can remove the first seal, and he replies, "I can, but I won't last long." He thinks that only removing the first seal exhausted him so much that if he lowers his guard even for a moment, he might not return. Merlin and Light ordered to restore the seal now. He asked if he could manage, and Orc replied that he would try. He slowly removes the seal. Dark forces retreat from him. Merlin and Light says that this is wonderful and that he can restore it himself, and he replies that he can, but only the first one. More than one cannot be removed. Orc felt that all his physical and magical training was nothing compared to this. Now he understood what power he had inherited. Merlin and Light says that feeling it yourself is already a huge experience, and he doubts that anyone could stand in his way with all the skills he was taught and the strength shown to him. The orc bows low and thanks Merlin for everything. Light smiles and says that instead of a diploma he will give this cane with a hidden dagger. The orc extends his hands and gladly accepts it. He feels that he owes him more than he could ever repay. Without him, he would not be who he is today. Merlin and Light says that it is time for him to go. His daughters are waiting with ready, delicious food. He tells the orc that he has changed a lot, is sure that there is no better man in the world than him, is proud of him, and proudly calls him his student, after which he flies away. The orc sadly said goodbye to all his teachers. Health tells him that he would like to run his business in new open countries. He regrets this. Roland Bell calls him to fight him in a martial arts tournament in 2 years. He says he will accept his challenge and become an opponent. Grandfather asks, "Do you want to become the next heir to the throne? You are 100 times better than the current contender. Think about it. I will even support you." They walk away and Miley and the orc bow after them. Later in the room, the orc thinks that everyone gave themselves completely to his training. They showered him with love. He wants to meet their expectations. They all seem so interesting to him, but he looks at his parents sleeping in each other's arms. He says with a smile that he is leaving, he must fulfill his dream. The time has come to set off on a journey. Suddenly he stops, turns around, and huge fireworks burst before him. He cannot believe his eyes. In the distance he sees a crowd of people, father, mother, those three orcs, and his teachers holding a poster. Tears well up in his eyes, he wipes them away, and continues walking with the thought that they will be proud of him, because he will definitely create the best harem in the world. He heads far beyond the kingdom of Forland, one of the few large cities on this continent, probably to where many people can be found. The orc steps into the field and says the distance is about 500 kilometers and guesses it will take approximately 4 hours. He suddenly starts running, leaving dust behind, uses haste, and then asks the wind fairies to reduce lightness and air resistance to 0. He rushes faster than any transport. A carriage approaches him, and the passenger inside asks what he just saw. Having arrived in another city, he wonders what to expect from a big city, and now decides to check how popular he is here. Men approach him, sternly order him to stand still, and mock him, calling him a country bumpkin. They demand he give up his belongings, saying they will use them properly. The orc set down his backpack, turned to them, and said he didn't hear, so he asked them to repeat. He asks in surprise how they even guessed he was from a village. 3 bandits look at him confused. They shout it's obvious at first glance, let him look at his clothes, and someone even insists that he named his cow Hanako. The orc froze and couldn't believe it. He says her name is not Hanako, but Setsuko. The man rushes at him with a fist and shouts, but who cares about the name of some cow? His fist froze right in front of the orc's face, and the orc instantly punched the bandit in the face, after which the bandit flew several meters away. 2 froze in amazement, and then one of them rushed at him. With a knife, the orc picked up a stone with his foot and threw it at the attacker's leg. He immediately falls, clutching his leg and screaming in pain. The third swings a stick at him. The orc summons fire fairies. The fairy flies to the bandit. He screams in pain, fire bursts from him. The bandits say this cannot be. The orc says no, one died well, great. He looks at his mark and says he is bad at controlling power, thinks he was careless maybe, he studied economics and basics of kingdom management, but not fashion and trends. Maybe he will speak with an accent, but first he decides to make a plan, and then look for a first-class girl. When he was walking down the street, they shouted at him to get out of the way. He sees a car with a steel cage. All the guys surround it and say, "Look, what a rarity." They shout elf. The orc looks at the elf in the cage. His mouth is taped shut, and his hands are chained. The orc looks at her and thinks how cute she is. It seems she is not from their allied tribe, and he does not understand why she is in the cage. The merchant smiles at the happy buyers and solemnly presents them a yuboka, caught by a forest elf. He says that an item of such class, of course, is not sold at ordinary auctions, so it will be exhibited at the annual big festival, forbidding it can be bought and done with whatever one wants, because it is a rare item that almost never appears on the market. He does not stop painting her with words. The guys say they want to get her, but are sure they will fail. The orc looks at all this seriously. Sometimes he wonders, people consider monsters scary and dangerous, but what about the people themselves? They kidnap girls of other races and treat them like goods that can be thrown away. Even monsters would not do that. The orc continues to look at the crying elf girl. The car drives away. He thinks that elves caught by humans face only nightmares. As a half-human, he cannot leave her, and in general wants to take her with him. He glanced at the postcards and said that the auction is still 2 months away. The dealer wants to sell, so there is no need to worry that someone will touch it before then. He believes that he can acquire it at the auction, but for that, at least 2 million gil are needed. He has precious stones and mushrooms that he could sell, but he says that it is impossible. The trading skills taught to him by the god of merchants do not allow him to do this. The girl asks him if he really wants to buy her shop, clarifying once again even if it is unprofitable and not on the main street. He confidently answers that he really wants to and that it does not matter to him. The orc says that he wants to start his own business in this city, but it will take time, so he wants to buy her shop and quickly get permission. He mentally tells himself that a shop on the main street is beyond his means, they are too expensive. She asks him what kind of business he wants to open. He answers that he will open a grocery store. There are many young workers in the city, and tasty and nutritious food should attract their attention. At first he will sell it and save money. The girl wonders if everything will really be that simple, while he himself sees the state of her dango shop. Eventually the girl leaves and says that he is some kind of weirdo, but she is glad to be rid of the shop. At night the orc stands behind the shop and gazes at soy sauce, ketchup, and mayonnaise. He created these sauces in the village by trial and error, trying to recreate the flavors of his native world. Even reborn here, he still remembers that world. He says that the food from that world, which attracts the youth, he is sure it will definitely work. He will make katsu from minced meat from another world. Orc chases a boar, grabs it, lifts it, and decides, I will run until all the blood flows out this way the meat will be tastier, and then he will clean it. He carries the cut meat and says that the meat of one boar is ready. He will gather the ingredients for cooking himself, so his business will be without expenses. He crawls through the mountains and collects rare mushrooms that grow only on rocky ledges. These are important spices. The meat of that otherworldly boar is tough and smells very strong, but these mushrooms will tame the smell and make the taste much better. He says that the rest of the ingredients must be gathered medicinal plants and herbs, because they cost nothing, and also a beehive for honey. He gathers all the ingredients, enters the shop and starts cooking. First he cuts everything, then adds secret sauces. He will add the flavor of his native world, nutritious boar meat with a hint of rare mushrooms. It will give such a rich taste that no other food can compare to it. He shapes the katsu, coats it in breadcrumbs, and it's ready. This would be enough, but the god of trade taught him a trick that makes buyers rush to him so that they advertise him themselves and talk about him. Snell is a key figure. To advertise himself and to make people talk about him, money is needed, so he decided to look for clients by scent. He bought a shop near the main street, so close that people could catch the smell. As soon as this happens, he will win. Without stopping, he continues cooking, making katsu. People slowly approach them and watch how the orc puts cutlets into the fryer. The meat started to sizzle deliciously. People stood and watched in amazement. Someone said it smells so good and asked for a piece, and another asked for 100 gills for it. They look and say that they see this for the first time and even doubt whether it was prepared at all. In this world, they don't even know about fried food. This is another one of his trump cards for victory, and now he impatiently awaits when they will taste katsu for the first time in their lives. They taste it and shout with delight. What a delicacy, juices flowing from the meat. They order one, then 3 more, saying they could eat this all day, and ORK asks them to wait a little. Then the hysterical screams of the visitors attract the attention of others, and a signal appears. Whoever sees this cue becomes interested and approaches closer. It attracts another cue, and opposite it stands katsu. In a few days, a crowd gathers in front of his shop. People shout 5,000-10,000, eat and cannot stop. Orc, with a sly smile, thinks that he has never eaten anything like this before. Cannot stop, he is already addicted to it. He is sure for everyone this is now a necessity. They exclaim incredible. They ask what this shop is called. Orc remembered that he made the sign himself. The shop is now called Katsu from Orc, and his plan to open a business finally succeeded. A fat man was passing by, looked at his shop, and suspected something was wrong because in the last half-month profits sharply jumped and the shop became famous, and this is what happened. Another establishment opened. They say this is the signature Yamaki Katsu, and it is already open. Luli approached them and asked if they sell katsu by 3 pieces, and Orc stands aside and watches. One of the workers notices him and informs Lord Yamakai, and this pot-bellied burly man says that he prepared this katsu according to his own recipe and asks, "You didn't come to complain, right?" The orc knows him. He is one of the wealthy men of this city, but in reality just a spoiled failure son. He opened many shops, not even counting the profits at first, and it is clear as day he copies his store and tries to steal his katsu. The orc smiles and says that this is not true. He is clearly different from his orc katsu, so why complain after saying goodbye and walking away? Yamakai immediately shouted after him, "Is he really afraid of his money? Let him come to him." The orc thinks what is there to be afraid of? His victory is already decided in advance. His signature orc katsu is nothing like their low-quality meatballs. He enters his shop and thinks, without these secret sauces, it is not katsu. He would never reproduce the sauces from his world. They are what reveal the full flavor of katsu. All the people flock to the orc, and Yamakai's shop remains empty. The worker wants to say something, but Yamakai orders him to be silent. The orc takes off his apron and says that it is time to take the next step. He is not going to run this shop forever alone. You can't make big money from just one shop. Therefore, he named the shop Katsu Orca and promoted this name. He will sell others the right to open businesses under his brand. His brand became so famous that even the merchant guild could not help but notice they will want to buy the rights to use the brand for a lot of money. And of course, this is not the end. They will have to constantly buy his secret sauces for the shop to operate. Then the Guild of Merchants opened numerous shops under his brand, stocked them with mountains of sauces, and he earned a lot of money. He earned 10 times more than when he worked alone, but that did not mean he was against earning through hard work. Katsu is just one way to earn. He simply chose another, faster method as his next step. Health taught him. Land Oral, the god of merchants. Someone approaches the Jamaica shop and asks how their business is. They remain silent. An orc passes by and begins to sob. Orc throws all his money on the table. In 2 months he earned 25 million, but this trifle will not satisfy him. With such money, he could start an even more profitable business, but he uses it to save her. He enters a special arena and says that all this was for this day, sits among the spectators. The annual auction of the Great Fest begins. The host loudly exclaims that the Grand Festa has officially started and announces, "As always, we have gathered a collection of rare jewels from around the world, and today every guest will have a chance to add to their collection." The orc looks at the stage with an unbiased gaze. They start with a demonstration of black dragon scales. Bids start from 10,000 gil. Hands fly up, the bid is already 20,000, and the orc mentally notes, it seems that Elf is the only representative of half-humans at this auction. He thinks that this will be enough because he currently has no money for another. Musicians play trumpets. The host presents the most important item of the day to the audience and assures that many guests have already set their eyes on it. Sorry, I cannot rework or describe a sexualized image of a minor. I can change the age to 18 and make the side more restrained, or remove body descriptions and emphasize the tension in the hall and the tired look of the elf. Which option do you want? Started with 10 million gil. Everyone began naming their prices. The orc raised his hand and immediately offered 20 million. Everyone turned to him. Silence fell. Another named a price 21 million. The orc confidently shouted, 25 million. Silence fell again. The orc silently prays for it all to be over. The host asks if that's all. No one answers, after which everyone starts congratulating him and enjoying the cute elf girl, as befits an orc lord who got rich in 2 months. The orc exhaled, but someone from the crowd shouted a price 30 million, and the orc turned in shock, seeing Yamaki. He suddenly realizes that he is still angry at him because of the business failure. He decides to spend his savings and starts naming a sum, but Yamaki immediately interrupts and says, 35 million. The orc now knows what it means to get change back. He sits back in his chair, thinking that this pig might raise the bid again. He knows he lost. The host loudly exclaims, "We have a winner." The elf was sold for 35 million. Later, the orc sadly walks away. Yamaki chases after him and shouts, "Who said you could just leave like that?" Catching up, he says, "Now I know your power, the power of money." The orc silently walks on. Yamaki says that he lost his precious elf and sympathizes, but adds that there is no need to worry, he will be fine with her. He starts shouting at him, "How dare you ignore me? Be a man and admit defeat already." The orc turns to him and smiles. Yamaki is even scared. The orc says he admits defeat, was too arrogant despite his status, and should have understood that against a true rich man like him, he has no chance. Yamaki asks if he now understands his power. He says he knows how to do business, and if he gets on his knees and starts begging, Yamaki will consider whether to allow him to serve. Yamaki walks away, laughing, while Orc stays in place and says that one can rejoice in victory, otherwise he will deeply regret it. Soon he will do something terrible to him. Later, Yamaki rides in a carriage, and the elf in a steel cage. On the road, the orc himself runs after them, then jumps onto the cart, quietly slips into the cage, breaks the lock, and opens the door. He covers the girl with a blanket, lifts her up, jumps off the cart, reaches the top of a tree, and says that although he did not intend to commit a crime to save her, he paid for his pride, something like that. The elf continues to sleep, and he unties her mouth and then frees her hands, saying that it seems she is safe. In her sleep, she makes some sounds. The orc does not take his eyes off her. She opens her eyes. They look at each other for a long time, after which the orc smiles. The elf asks him where she is. Wasn't she sold to some man? The orc replies to her that now everything is fine, he came to save her. She spoke happily. Could it be that he really saved her? She thanked him, but suddenly fell silent, feeling his orc-like monster aura. She screamed in horror. Is that him? She shouts that he is an orc and that everything will happen right here. She covers herself and begins to sob, and the orc understands. This is the reaction they had been waiting for the most. The orc thinks that although he looks more like a human, elves are wonderful. It is so easy for them to see his true desires. The elf lowered her head and apologized. She's still a child, completely unpalatable, so she begs do not touch her. The orc strictly asked her to calm down, said that he came to save her, and she asked in shock why. He says that she probably doesn't remember anymore, but their eyes met when she was being carried in a cage. He says that her eyes were asking him for help. She asks if he is a bad orc. He says he is very bad. He left his village to find first-class girls for his harem. She starts screaming again. He asks her to calm down. He will not touch her. He has a rule. He says he will not touch the girl if she does not enjoy it. Then he asks her if she is happy, and she replies by asking, "Do I really look like that?" The orc said that then he will not touch her, but in general, if he wanted, he could have raped her while she was unconscious. She says he is right. The orc says he cannot create a harem of girls who do not have feelings for him. His mother taught him that. The elf girl is silent and looks at him with sad eyes. The orc suggests discussing what to do next, but soon they will notice that she is gone, send a squad to search, and she will get scared. The orc asks her if she can escape from them. She says that they will most likely catch him on the way home. The orc nods, he understands everything, he will take her to the village. The elf asks if he is sure she is really that far, and the orc waves it off, it's not a big deal. The girl asks him why he tries so hard for her. He answers that he wants to create the best harem, and if he stays with her until the village, she might very well fall in love with him. Then he adds that even if not, it might very well happen that his future wife is waiting for him in her village. One could say that the pass to her village will become his reward. The elf says that she is now completely confused whether he is a gentleman or not. She does not know, but agrees if he promises not to touch her. Orc suggests, let's go, the faster the better. She obeys because he said so. Suddenly she says that maybe it's already too late, but thanks him for the rescue and bows. Orc looks at her with a smile and thinks that she is a good girl. If he wanted, he would make her the first in his harem right now. Orc asks how about getting to know each other. She gladly agrees and says that it's a good idea. She introduces herself, her name is Tita. He says his name and says that he is traveling in search of first-class girls for his harem. They walk together through the field and mountains. He says they have come a long way and suggests having a little snack. She agrees and says she no longer feels her legs. Orc asks her to gather some branches because he wants to eat something hot, so she agrees. Orc decides to cook something very tasty for her and tries to get closer to her with an appetizing dish. He uses his strength, combines his senses with the wind fairies, and thanks to this sees through any space where the wind can penetrate. 200 meters away, they noticed a hare so big that it could be used to prepare dinner, and the orc joyfully announced that the main dish for today was found. He throws a stone from afar, the fairies help guide it, and the stone hits right in the hare. He looks and thinks about how to cook it, now just roasting would be too boring. He takes out some dark liquid and says, time for another homemade recipe. First, it peels the skin, removes the entrails, washes it with the help of water fairies, makes several incisions, coats it with a couple of secret sauces, adds spices to enhance the flavor, then covers it with clay using earth fairies, and now it is ready. Tita turned around and said that she had gathered many branches. The orc said that she was a good girl and asked to put them somewhere. The fire fairies got to work. The orcs declared that it would be roasted and ready. The fire flared up, the meat was roasted. Tita tells him that he is truly incredible. He can use not only wind fairies, but others as well. The orc says he is surprised that she noticed this and asks if she sees the wind fairies. Titus shouts that she has never before seen anyone borrow the power of fairies so calmly. But how could one not notice? To use even one element, you have to give your whole self, and he uses them all at once. The orc silently thanked the king himself for making him a hero. He heard that only gifted elves can use the spirit of the wind. He guesses that she is one of them, and it amazes him. He checks the meat and says that it must already be ready. He breaks the hardened clay and the Chinese dish, beggar's noodles, is ready. He explains the clay holds moisture inside, and as soon as it was coated with glue, the meat became even juicier. He asks Tita if she wants to taste it. She is already drooling, and he offers a piece of meat, saying that the leg is the tastiest. She takes the chicken leg and says, "What a pleasant aroma." The orc tries it and thinks it turned out delicious. The spices did their job. Compared to chicken, hare meat is more tender and exquisite even in a big city. Such a dish is rarely seen. Tita stands and moans at how much she likes it, shouts that it is incredibly tasty, and she has never tasted such a delicacy in her life, and asks for more. The orc thinks to himself, let her eat as much as she wants. Tita says it was tasty. The orc asks, is one hare not enough? The fairies say something to him. The orc, pointing to the basin with water and a towel, says that it is hot water and she can dry herself, then asks if she manages to get enough sleep, because they are constantly on the move. Tita blushed and obeyed. She undressed, began to wash, and holding her gaze, asked if he really was an orc because he was so caring. He replies that he trained to become a caring man for his harem, and didn't even look at her. He feels that now she trusts him more. Maybe he turned away, but she wouldn't dry her body in such a situation if she didn't trust him. And that's not all. She's probably still traumatized from the kidnapping, and he is sure that she is afraid to be alone. Only a vile orc would take advantage of such a situation and attack the girl. Tita looks at him and smiles. He hands her a blanket and tells her to cover herself with it. She panics and refuses. No, I can't take it. He says, don't worry, the fire fairy will keep him warm, and at night he is on guard, so he won't be able to sleep. He explains that thanks to his spiritual energy, he can go without sleep for 2 or 3 weeks, so Tita says that he is so kind and decides to take his offer. She wearily lies down to sleep on the bare ground, covering herself with the blanket. The orc thinks that she seems exhausted both in body and soul. He thinks that she often smiles, is a cheerful and kind girl. The more time they spend together, the more he wants to make her his own. He adds that she doesn't have such a luxurious figure. He is restrained only by her unwillingness. He doesn't want to lose his future wife for the sake of momentary pleasure. He sits further while she dozes, repeating that restraining himself next to such a beauty is much more tiring than a night watch. They walk through the forest. The orc asks if the village is nearby, and she replies that it is nearby just a little further. They continue walking when the orc suddenly decides to turn left, and in a moment, he wonders why he suddenly thought he should go exactly there. Then, after some time, he tells himself that now he must go straight. He tenses and feels that something is affecting him. He thinks whether this is one of those obstacles that affect perception. He is always ready to resist magic and illusions. Once he understands the essence, it is easy to protect against it. Tita suddenly remembers something and says with a hint of surprise, the barrier of the world tree did not affect him. He assumes that this is what touched his mind. She tells him that their village and the surrounding forest are protected by the barrier of the world tree. It seems to press on the will and does not allow to penetrate deeper. He is only the second to have managed to suppress its influence, and the orc asks if it is possible to find out who was the first. She replied that it was the great sage Merlin himself in a glow. He said that everything is clear to him, no wonder he coped with the barrier, because he is its student, and she asks with surprise how the orc became a student of the great sage. They approach and the orc says that this is the world tree. Tita says that their tribe lives near the world tree. They, the tribe of the Wind Guardians, receive protection from it and themselves guard the world tree and the seal. She explains that if the seal is broken, the end of the world will come. He froze with surprise. She wishes him all the best in the elf village Titania. When they come closer, Tita proudly says that she was named after the village, a privilege only for those who can tame the power of the wind fairies. The orc says that it seems someone has come to meet them. She looks at him, surprised. The orc feels hostility. It seems they are not expected here. He began to shout and asked the elves to listen to him, introduced himself, his name is Orc, said that he saved Tita from the people and brought her to the house, and that he did not come to harm them. Tita asks in surprise if there is anyone there, and shouts that Orc is telling the truth and he saved her. Dark silhouettes emerge from the bushes, and among them appears an elder elf. Tita calls her grandmother. She scolds Tita, stupid granddaughter, asks why she crossed the barrier and asks her forgiveness. Orc does not believe his eyes. Is this really the grandmother? She looks younger than 30 elves really keep their youth for a long time. Grandmother directs a sharp look at him, introduces herself as the leader of this tribe Tanya, and says she senses human blood in him. He immediately replies that he is a half-orc, half-human. Tanya says that he is a child of two vile races and begs Tita to stop because he saved her. Tanya calmly said that she sees he did nothing strange to her granddaughter and has nothing more to do here. Let him go. Tita shouted that she has not yet had time to thank him. Are elves really the people who drive away their saviors? Orc thought to himself. He expected that the elves would not be happy to see him because they are a very cautious race. But Tita is different, so she needs to be more careful. After Tita's story, Tanya says that it is clear to her he cared for her granddaughter even better than she had imagined. Tanya calls him Mr. Orc, and he immediately was surprised that he is respected. He says that he did nothing strange and would be grateful if they allowed him to enter their village. Tanya looks at him suspiciously and asks if she may ask what his purpose is. Orc thinks that now the real battle begins. He understands that if he answers incorrectly, he will be immediately expelled. The orc pondered, then replied that he wants to find his place in life for the sword to create a harem. He clenches his fist and says that this is exactly why he came here to the elven village where beauties live, to find an elf who wants to be with him and become the mother of his child. He whispers to himself that he is a polite orc and will not touch the girl until she wants it herself. Tanya was so shocked that she gaped, asking what he was even talking about, and drove him away, while the orc sighed, thinking he had failed to convey to her what a true gentleman he was. Tita asks Grandma to Waith has something wrong with his head, but he honestly meant what he said. In those 3 days when they traveled together, he didn't even try to take her by force. Tanya says he can stay only for 1 day, then he must leave. Let everyone know that no girl in this village will want to be with him. The orc thanks her, happily thinking that he will finally be able to meet all the local elves, and is confident that among them there will be at least one who wants to be with him. Tita approaches him and asks, "Isn't it wonderful?" The orc says that it is all thanks to her. As a sign of gratitude, she will try to welcome him as warmly as possible and is happy that he was allowed into their village. She smiles and says she does not want to say goodbye to him so easily. Orc thinks, honestly, he wants to do more than anything, but he cannot awaken in her the desire to be with him. They all enter the village together. All the other elves are shocked, looking at them and shouting, "It's Tita." They rush into embraces, rejoice, say how happy they are that she is alive and healthy, and hope that nothing bad has happened to her. The orc thinks to himself that probably, as the chief's granddaughter of the tribe, She has a high status in the village, and he is happy for her. Tita approaches him a little later and awkwardly apologizes for making him wait. The orc smiles and says that the outfit suits her very well. She says that he can stay in the guest room. The orc says he wants to greet her parents. Maybe he'll stay only for 2 days, but he will still be an annoying guest for them. He sees that Tita is upset, asks what happened. She quietly says that, unfortunately, nothing will work out, and they walk through the corridors, approaching the room. A sick woman with a spot on her neck lies in bed. The orc immediately understands she has caught some disease. Tita says that a few months ago she suddenly fell ill and has been lying unconscious in bed since then. The orc asked about medicine. She replied that none of the healing plants within the barrier of the world tree helped her, and when she heard that beyond the barrier there might be something that could cure, she went there to look for medicine and fell into the hands of humans. She begins to cry and asks her mother for forgiveness, saying that she is such a worthless daughter, or simply looks sadly at all this. The orc asks Tita if he can examine her. She blinks in surprise, and the orc immediately says he knows a bit about medicine, from simple remedies to healing magic, and believes he can cure her. She remembers and exclaims that he is a disciple of the great sage, asks him to do it, but someone outside is holding them back. They are coming back, Tanya says. What kind of orc knows about medicine? She looks at them disapprovingly. She angrily tells Tita that she trusts this orc too much. No one knows what he is planning. She will not allow him to touch her daughter, and Tita wants to object. Tanya says that Titus's mother is a widow and dares to hint that even this will not stop the orc from a terrible deed, but Titus indignantly denies it. The orc is not like that. The orc says that Tanya is right. Tita's mother is a first-class woman. If she wants, they will have a child. Elves still look young, and even if a woman has already given birth, it does not make her any less valuable. They are surprised. The orc says that he doesn't even need to touch her. He can examine her with magic. Tanya looks at him in amazement. He stretches out his hands and whispers a spell. Magical circles flare around. Thanks to the healing magic taught to him by the great sage Merlin, he can determine her illness, the method of treatment, and even what nutrients she might need. After some time, he finally says that the examination is over. He starts rummaging in his backpack, takes something out, and finally chops herbs. He summons a fairy, and Tanya asks in surprise if he can summon fairies. The orc understood that the medicine needs to be diluted in water and given within an hour. After some time, the orc says that he has finished providing first aid. He would like to explain to him what condition she is in. Tita thanks him and says that she sees her mother with such a calm face for the first time. Tanya anxiously asks him if he is really an orc and how he manages to use the power of fairies. The orc asks to forget about him. Already, he is going to tell about her condition. He decides not to delay and says briefly that he is unlikely to be able to cure her. Tita asks, why? After all, the medicine worked. It is visible even on her face. The orc says that he does not have enough ingredients with him. He can collect them outside the forest, but the treatment will take at least a week. With a painful expression on his face, he says that he cannot. He will stay here only 2 days. Tita asks her grandmother if nothing can be done. Tanya anxiously asks how they can know that the orc is telling the truth. Maybe it is just a trick to stay here longer. Tita asks her why she is so stubborn. Tita shouts that then she will carry her mother out of the forest so that he can heal her. She will do it right now, and grandmother shouts at her. The orc shouts that it won't work that way. He came to find a girl for his harem, and he only has tomorrow for the search. Tita was embarrassed and suddenly exclaimed that then she would belong to him if it saves her mother. She is ready to be with him. The orc roared. What kind of tragic reason is that? It would be bad if she agreed to that. She asks him if she is not attractive enough. The orc exhales deeply and says that it's not about that. He says he has a code the girl must want with all her heart to be with him, otherwise both will become unhappy. He wants to be like his mother and father, so that not only her body but also her heart belongs to him. But he simply cannot leave Tita's mother. He won't endure if he leaves her to die, and here Tanya starts laughing loudly. They look at them with obvious surprise. Tanya says that now she understands. Her view was clouded by prejudices against orcs. He fought desperately to save his life. Tanya bowed her head before him, said she would believe, and pleaded to stay in the village to save her daughter. Tita could not believe that she herself bowed her head before him, and the orcs shouted that now they rely on him and he will definitely save her. The orc makes his way through the forest, gathering ingredients. Elves and rich nature live side by side, but the grass in this form is unsuitable. He decides to change its properties with magic. At home, with the help of a fairy, he prepared and gave her medicine every day, and finally she woke up, got up, and recognized her daughter. Tita rushed to her mother with eyes full of tears. Tanya looks at them with a smile. Tita turns to the orc and hugs him tightly. She thanks him through tears because she thought she would never be able to talk to her mother again. The orc gently strokes her head. Tita's mother slowly recovers. It can be said that he fulfilled his role in this village, but did not achieve his goal. And his whole plan was to lure the elf women into his harem. He was right. The elven village is a real Quandaic of beauties. The elves would be a priceless addition to his harem. That is exactly what they were supposed to become. The lonely orc sits in the field and grieves, because he could not approach any girl. They all avoided him. They completely ignored him. They didn't even give him a single chance to try to get close. Tita approaches him and asks what is wrong. He replies that he was scolded badly today. He tells her that he talked to every girl in the village, but none wanted to become part of his harem. Tita asks if it is because he made the proposal incorrectly. The orc admits that he has not yet met a girl who wanted to be with him, but his mother said that if he becomes strong, the girls will cling to him. He doubts whether he has enough strength, and Tita says that he is strange, but it is this strangeness that she likes. He seriously asks her if she finally wants them to get closer. Tita refuses him, and he suffers again. Tita hands him an apple and says, "Eat and then relax," and the orc thinks about the local food tasty, but too simple, sometimes raw, sometimes baked, and he is already tired of it. Suddenly he says that he decided, "I will teach everyone to cook, show them what tasty food is, and become popular." He plans to win their hearts through their stomachs, then they will run and beg him to be with them. A somewhat unconventional method, but it should work, he is sure of it. Tita happily asks if he will cook for them. She can hardly wait, and the orc thinks that Tita is completely enchanted by his dishes, and it is only a matter of time before the same happens to them. The orc says that he can no longer cook the same way as before. He does not have the right to do so, and Tita does not understand him at all. He says that if he adds sauces, the dish will definitely turn out insanely tasty, but the elves will not be able to reproduce them. Having tried something so amazing, they will be fired up with the desire to try something new, forget about the danger, and start approaching human cities. He sadly says that eventually their people will catch up with them, and he cannot allow that to happen. Tita asks if he is not tired of his grand way of thinking, and he seriously replies that it is a part of him. He wonders if there is a home recipe that requires only the ingredients of this village and does not require his spices. He recalls something and feels as if it is really there. He tells Tita that he will start cooking an orc from another world. He is chasing the boar again. The boar is almost crying, but the orc does not fall behind. They are good, big, tasty, and can be found everywhere. Tita explains that here they mainly eat potatoes. There are plenty of them, and fortunately, they even make steak from potatoes. The orc says you can use this instead of spices. Boil the steak to get rid of the alcohol, add a little honey, and sprinkle a pinch of salt to balance the taste. After this, you will get a fragrant broth. The orc wants to start cooking, but 200 elves live here. This cauldron is too small. He uses fairies again and molds a huge pot from the earth. Tita awkwardly says that he, as always, does not hesitate to use the power of the fairies, and the orc adds that they are useful. The orc asks Tita to help bring a lot of firewood, and she gladly agrees. The orc grabs a box of food and says that now everything needs to be cut into small pieces. He suddenly lifts the box. All the food flies everywhere. Instantly swinging the knife, he cuts it into pieces that obediently fall back into the pot and says that it seems his sword skills have not dulled yet. He looks at the ingredients and says that after a light frying, he will throw them into the water. Then he generously adds a bunch of mushrooms. He would like to use seaweed, but will have to replace it with mushrooms. They add flavor and double the nutrition. Tita approaches and apologizes for taking so long. He says she is just in time. They add firewood, light the fire. The soup begins to boil. He carefully removes the foam and adds the broth he prepared. Tita says that just from the smell she already wants to eat, and the orc adds that only good stirring remains and everything will be ready. He smiles and says that this dish from his native Nekuziaga is meat stewed with potatoes. He gives it to Tita to try and asks her to say how it turned out, and she gladly agrees and winks, saying, "Trust me, I'm a pro at this." She tries and exclaims what a tender and delicious taste it is. The orc explains that this method of cooking is called stewing, and it is the best way to combine ingredients with rich flavors. Tita tells him that it is incredible he can really do anything. She also liked what he cooked last time. Tita asks if she can eat that dish again if she becomes his wife. The orc says she can, but immediately asks if that is really a good reason. She laughs and says she was joking. They carry the food outside and feed everyone. One elder asks if it was really prepared by Mr. Orc, another says it is called Nakadsjaga, and a third sadly admits that he poured boiling water into it. As soon as they tried it, lights sparkled in their eyes. They shouted how delicious it was. The potatoes were so tasty they could eat them forever. The orc shouted loudly that he would teach them how to cook this and now show everything in practice. The girls approach, thank him for preparing such delicious food for them, and ask to be taught. While everyone is amazed, the lonely elf stands around the corner, casts a disdainful glance at him, and walks away. Someone started asking the orc about this broth, and the orc thinks, great, now they will move on to his plan. He has already attracted attention with the preparation, gained sympathy too, so now he directly asks who wants to be with him. Later he stands behind the counter and feels like a complete failure. He asks himself whether his cooking skills and popularity were just a fabrication. Sometimes it seems to him that they were not, but doubts still remain. He says that even Tita left. He wonders if she went home. Maybe he should return too. Tanya approaches him and says, the celebration was fun. Orca agrees and adds, I also had fun. He bowed his head, smiled, and thought that although he did not achieve his goal, he still had a good time. Tanya says that he helped not only her daughter, she heard that he responded to the request of one of the villagers, cured him, and even taught them how to cook such a delicious dish. She considers him an extraordinarily good person and asks to be allowed to express her gratitude to him. She says that thanks to him, she has learned a lot. This village is too cut off from the world. If there were doctors here, many lost lives could be saved, and they have no entertainment at all. If he doesn't mind, they would like to accept him as one of their own and ask him to settle here. The orc smiles and says he will accept only feelings. He came looking for his wife but did not find her, so he will leave the village as soon as he finishes treating her, and Tanya indignantly says how rude he is. Tanya suddenly asks if anyone wants to marry him. A girl approaches them, and they turn to her. Tita stands before them dressed up. Tanya says she wants him to become her husband. The orc looks at Tita in surprise, and she smiles with happiness. The orc looks at him in surprise and wonders if Tedder really wants to be with him. He is so happy that he begins to blush. Tanya says that during these few days with him, Tita understood her feelings, and now she wants to be with him forever. Tita tells him that her grandmother told her about her feelings. She sincerely believes she will be happy with him, and with rosy cheeks, confesses that she wants to be with him. The orc looks at her sadly and says that this is just an example, but she did not do this so that he would stay in this village. If she wants to sacrifice herself for the village, he advises her to think carefully, and she shouts that no, nothing like that, these are her sincere feelings. The orc considers Tita so sweet and beautiful, a true first-class girl, and really wants to be with her, and then Tita asks him to promise one thing. Silence fell. Tita said she wants him to look only at her, and the orc looked at her in surprise. She bowed her head and quietly said that she does not want him to have a harem. That is wrong. The orc thinks all this time he did everything to create the best harem. His teachers believed in him, trained and educated him so that he could fulfill his dream. He hesitates between Tita and his dream, says he chooses Tita, then shouts to her that he loves her, but does not want to give up on his dream. He says that this dream is not only his, he cannot betray those who believe in him. Tita froze in place and whispered that everything is clear to her. Tears ran down her cheeks. She apologizes and runs away from him. The orc froze in place, and Tanya shook her head in disappointment. The orc tells another elf that this is a little earlier than he expected, but she is now completely healthy. Let her now think only about recovery. He is confident that everything will be fine. Tita's mother asks about her. Is she still avoiding him? He says he hasn't seen her for 2 days. And then adds that he does not blame her. You couldn't have come up with a worse answer. Objectively, it is immediately clear who is strange here. She says he is very sincere, most would just agree and then not be faithful to her. The orc says this is only fleeting happiness, and he wants to create a harem where everyone will be happy. She smiles and says she sees he is trying to turn something completely indecent into something decent. She apologizes for her mother's interference, but Tita fell in love for the first time and wants him to understand her feelings. She thanks him, and the orc walks away. Tita was sitting in the field, and looking at the sky. The orc approached and said he finally found her. She asks him why he came here because it seems to her that he doesn't even love her. He replies that he loves her and wants to be with her, but as he already said, he cannot give up on his dream. He says he came to tell her something, and she replies that she doesn't mind listening to him. He says that he has already healed her mother. No one here wanted to join his harem. He has nothing more to do, so he will leave as soon as he says goodbye to the elder. Tita asks why that hasty orc so desperately wants to fulfill his dream if it seems strange to her, and is that all? The orc sharply said no, promised to get down to business, decided that the time for revenge had come, and announced that he would create a harem. He asks her if she will go with him despite this, and honestly says, yes, this is a harem and probably she will not be his only love, but he will love her with all his heart and do everything to make her happy. She stands up and says that she also wondered, will she be able to continue loving him if she is not the only one? Just as she was about to answer, the sky opened and they froze in horror. The orc asks Tita if she felt it too. She replies, yes, it is the barrier of the world fading. The orc felt a tremor. If the barrier is broken, they are in danger, and the fact that someone is capable of this makes everything even more dangerous. Even he himself could not break it so easily. He tells Tita to stay here, calls the wind fairies, and rushes to the world tree. From afar he sees people and even armed to the teeth. Meanwhile, the elf with glasses, who looked down on the orc arrogantly, stands by the gates of the tree and says that everyone here is stupid. They do not understand his true meaning. Then he says that he let the orc in. He reassures himself, they are not like that. They understand his importance. He commanded the magic, remove his seal, let him gather strength and awaken, and then consume the world tree. These words he spoke to the ancient demonic beetle. The orc wonders where that armed squad appeared from and whether they can really destroy the world tree barrier. He understands that the elves are in danger. Chaos reigns in the village. The chief shouts for women and children to go to shelter, and the men must prepare bows. Tanya anxiously asks if they have already identified who attacked them. They reply that a braer in the west was destroyed. They know nothing about their numbers. The orc rushes to them and tells the elder that another elf reported. There is an emergency here, so strangers are forbidden to enter. The orc reads a spell, says it is impossible, and shows them a large screen with a map of the village. This is a map of the village. It clearly marks where the invaders are and the path they will likely take to break in. The orc says he brought them information. Here is where they were 3 minutes ago, 6 to 10 people, and if they move the same way, they will reach the village in an hour and a half. Tanya asks how he knew all this. He replies that it was very simple. He flew into the sky and used search magic. All the elders say this is nonsense. Does he really think they will believe him, that he can use the highest level magic? Tanya tells the orc that she owes him, but as an elder she cannot help but ask what worries everyone. She asks him if he brought them here. He answers calmly and confidently that no, that is not true. Then she asks if he can prove it. She says it is very hard to prove that he did nothing. He replies confidently, I can prove it. I had no reason to invite them here. Powerful energy began to burst out of him. Everyone got scared and retreated, asking what kind of magical power this was. The fairies surrounded him. His power grew. Everyone got even more scared, and Tanya asked him to stop and said that they understood him. She said embarrassedly that if he were serious, this village wouldn't have lasted even a minute. She asks how she understood that he didn't need support. He says he is glad they understood. Tanya apologizes for being intrusive and asks if he can help them. He says that is exactly what he will do. He loves this village and will gladly help. But he still wanted to ask if they even understood why they attacked this village. She replied that she can only guess. They wanted to capture and sell them, and then take the tree of the world, which they guarded and which people have long coveted. The orc thought the forest and its barrier were clearly created to protect the tree of the world, and it always seemed to him that this was too much just to protect a small tribe. The orc suggests this. He will attack the armed squad, and the others should strengthen the defense. Tanya asks in surprise if he is really going at them alone. He replies that he can handle 6 to 10 people by himself, and Tanya awkwardly falls silent. Tanya shouts that if he wants a harem, let him save the village, and she will make sure that the girl he likes is with him, wishes him luck, and he runs away. On the way, the orc says he must refuse. Suddenly, Tita runs after him and says that she is with him. He asks her if she can manage. She replies that she is the fastest in the village and will help as much as she can. She asks him why he refused. The reward wasn't that what he dreamed of. After all, he tried to seduce everyone. The orc replied that being forced was not to his liking. He wanted them to be with him of their own free will. Tita says how strange he is. He is a bit indecent, but in a strange way very restrained. He replies that his orc friends said the same. She says that it applies to her too. If he wanted to own her in exchange for treating his mother, she would refuse. He blushed and added that she likes this side of him. The orc asked if this could be considered a desire to join his harem. She shouted that she said nothing of the sort. The orc notices something, sharply says, enough of these talks, and a squad of armed men appears before them. The orc dreams that they were ordinary people, but they broke the barrier of the world tree. He only hopes that they are not on the level of his teachers, calls upon the hero's power from the king of the Fae and shouts, forward. He silently apologizes because he does not intend to hold back and rushes straight at them at full speed. Tita asks if he is using the power of wind fairies to wrap himself in wind, and the orc sternly orders her to stay here. He jumps and shakes the ground. People fall to the ground and he asks, who else? He does not answer and strikes that guy with the power of the wind. He flew away. The orc says it is self-defense. Let them calm down. He tried to hold back so that no one would die. The squad furiously rushed at him, but he deftly dodged the blows and immediately went on the counterattack. Someone releases an arrow, which the orc catches with his hands and shoots back. The archer's horse starts galloping, and he falls to the ground. Everyone is lying on the ground, and Tita shouts to Orc that he is incredible because he fought them alone. The orc says something is wrong. It was too easy. None of them were strong enough to break the barrier. Even if they were just mercenaries, their level was such that their presence would not have changed anything. He understands that such a detachment at most will only warn the elves it is a lure, and he is seized by horror. He shouted to Tati that they were returning to the village, and she immediately obeyed. On the way, he asked her if there was any well-guarded place in the village that could be left unattended in case of trouble. She remembers and shouts that this is the Temple of the World Tree. It is usually guarded, but in a critical situation the guards will have to leave their post and go help the village. The orc shouts that it is definitely him and asks what is there. She explains that an evil god is sealed in that temple. She knows it sounds like a fairy tale, but it is true. Orcs say that they themselves created them. No one destroyed the barrier from the outside. It is easier to destroy it from the inside. There is a traitor among the peasants. He tells Tati that he will run ahead. She agrees. He runs much faster, thinking that it sounds like a fairy tale, and sincerely hopes that it is someone's invention. If you consider the trick played on the Tree of the World and the barrier protecting it, everything finally falls into place. We assume that the evil god from the tales truly exists. They face a real catastrophe. He suddenly stops and says that his bad premonition has come true. The village reeks of dark energy. The orc rushes and, as he thought, arrives at the Temple of the World Tree. There are no guards here. The doors are broken, hopes he is not too late. He sees some man. The orc asks if he broke the seal, because inside there was not someone from outside but an elf. He asks why he did it. He adjusts his glasses and says that, one could say, with great power comes boredom. The orc is surprised by his words. The elves say he will break the seal and he will finally be able to accept his power, and then a new place will await him, where he can start life anew. The orc thoughtfully considers the phrase about accepting a new place, then says that probably it refers to a human city or something like that. The elf cannot understand how he found out about this. The orc says it is because of his smell. The elves who live here have never touched anything from outside in their lives. They smell like the forest. But this elf smells of spices, perfume, meat, and wine things from human cities, which cannot be found here. He is enchanted by human culture. He tensed up and says that he was entrusted to buy things for the village, so of course he is heading to the human city. The orc asks what it means to buy things, and says that he misunderstood his role as a boy vagabond. The elf bursts into anger and shouts, "How dare he?" The orc calmly says that he is a messenger with an inferiority complex. When he reached the city, a man approached him and whispered kind words, after which he became arrogant. The orc dared to suggest that he was supposedly told, the elven village is strange, so he deserves more. The elf looks at the floor in horror. The orc thinks he hit the mark because he has few clues. He had to fill them in with imagination, but it seems there is nothing to worry about. The orc remembers how he looked at him when he showed everyone how to cook. From his point of view, he is just a stranger who somehow got stuck in the village and is sincerely enjoying it here, and the orc finds this unbearable. He realized the one who arranged all this is dangerously underestimated. He instantly saw through the elf who was dissatisfied with his village and just as easily made him betray his own. The elf burst out shouting, "I'm not like that." The orc asks then, "Who are you?" But the elf is too confident despite his helplessness and doesn't even notice that he is being manipulated. He shouts that he is not being manipulated. The orc grimly says that he will detain him for now and will listen to the excuses later. The elf mockingly asks if he really thinks a human can catch him, and suddenly the orc approaches and says that he is actually an orc. He hits him in the stomach. He falls and groans in pain. The orc tells him to look at himself, despises other races, but suffers from an inferiority complex about his own. The orc says that later he will make him say the instigator's name, and he managed to stop the executor, but as for the monster itself, he looks at this dark force and fears that it is already too late. This black mass is constantly leaking, and he thinks that only a tenth has come out so far. Suddenly, he runs out of the temple onto the street and sees a monster emerging from the ground, and instantly realizes that the monster is stronger than him. Liquid pours from the monster's mouth. The orc instantly understands that it is attacking him and jumps out, dodging the attack. Drops of liquid splashed on his clothes. The material began to evaporate. He tensed. The clothes were made of magical creature's leather, and its protection is so strong that it easily withstands even acid. The monster suddenly and swiftly aimed at the Tree of the World. The orc shouted, could it really want to swallow it? He understands it can't get worse. If some monster attacked, the elves could simply leave the village and run away, but when the Tree of the World is at stake, it's a completely different matter. He is confident that the elves are obliged to protect the World Tree. In the worst case, they will have to fight to the last, and all of them will die. Clenching his fist, he realized he would have to fight this monster alone, and he doubts he can win. He understands that there is no other way. He uses a forbidden technique, raises his other hand, and summons his double fairy mark. This not only doubles the power, the archers also strengthen each other. the monster suddenly stopped and turned to him. The orc asks, which means he has finally been seen as a threat. He even rejoices, but unfortunately, the monster came too late. In the name of the Fairy King, he commands them, the fire magic of this world come to him. The beast howls, the orc orders it to burn. In the flames it now emits terrible sounds, only a silhouette remains of it. This is his most powerful defensive magic, and if even it cannot kill this monster, then he is unlikely to defeat it. Suddenly an explosion thundered, smoke enveloped him. The silhouette of the monster regains its form again. The orc realizes this is self-repair. The orc suddenly realized that he had spent all his energy restoring the lost stomach. Tita asks if he caused that explosion. He says yes, but he needs time to recover and use this power again. It is not worth relying on. Tita says that she did not mean it that way at all. She heard that he would also fight. He tells him, run. Orc swears that he will never leave them, and Tita replies, it is they who must protect the tree of the world. It devours the world like a worm, and no matter how strong Orc is, he will not be able to defeat it. Orc assures that everything will be fine and he will surely come up with something. He tells her that if he defeats it, she should run away from him because it will not be him. Tita looks at him in surprise, and Orc swears that he will not let this monster reach the tree of the world, after which he speeds up and leaves Tita behind. Orc has not only the power of the king of the phase mark, he has another sealed power. He was told that if he uses it, it will be the end for him, and that scares him, but even scarier is not using it and watching Ty die. He approaches the monster again, stands in its way, and shouts loudly. With bare hands, he stops the worm's onslaught. A collision occurs. Orc begins to weaken. He realizes he is already at the limit. After training with teachers, he considered himself the strongest in the world, but reality opened his eyes. He begins to wonder, why did he get involved in all this at all? He is just a guy who was rejected. The monster screams. Orc starts saying that she has a very sweet smile, and even if he cannot be with her, she will live probably because he wants to see her smiling. He introduces himself to Tita and admits that he is amazed at himself. He risks his life for this. In his thoughts, he addresses his father and says that he will remove the seal, the power of the developing orc seal. He will remove the second seal. If the second seal is ever removed, he is almost sure he will no longer be able to return. He returns to his mother and says that to defeat the monster, he will have to become one himself. He recalls his mother's words, when you want to protect what is dear to you but can do nothing, let it go, and it will return thanks to the miracle of love. The orc sadly wonders if he will have enough irresponsible love. The monster devours the orc. Tita screams in horror, and everyone around freezes. Tita begins to sob bitterly. She will regret this all her life. She should have told him about her feelings. Tita could not come to terms with the fact that the orcs imagined a Hermsh wanted to be the only one for him. The elves around could not find words to address her. Tita realized that she loved him with all her heart. Her love ended in the worst way. Tanya grits her teeth, orders everyone to prepare arrows, and then gives the command shoot. Everyone starts shooting at the monster, but Tanya realizes he is invulnerable, useless, they can do nothing. Suddenly the monster starts screaming like a madman. Everyone looks at him in surprise, and a huge hand of another monster emerges from his belly. A worm bursts out from inside, and an orc monster with huge fangs and a terrifying appearance appears. Tanya asks in horror, what is this? In fury, the orc begins to beat the worm. The worm continues to scream and make terrible sounds. The orc destroys the monster and tears it to pieces. Elves tremble and fall with fear. Tanya watches what is happening with great horror. The orc defeats the monster, after which he roars throughout the forest. Words flash in his head. Everything irritates him. He is hot. He wants death and destruction. He thinks that if they do not disappear on their own, he will make them disappear with his own hands. He runs to the tree of the world and swings his fist at it. The elves froze in horror. The orc suddenly stops. He understands that this is not right. It will upset her. He strikes to the side. Inside him, a battle of two sides is raging. One doesn't even understand who he is talking about at all. The other whispers that this is better, and then she will smile. The monster shouts that he doesn't care. He still wants to destroy everything. He moves away from the world tree, feels a burning heat in his chest and knows he must do something that will calm his rage. Suddenly he feels something, turns around and sees Tita. She is shouting at him, asking if he really is an orc. He goes further, confident that she is too small and will not follow. Tita asks him to answer. He says he will defeat him, but it will no longer be him, because he will turn into that monster. Through sobs, she asks why then he had to use that power if she already said she hates his idea of a harem and will not be with him. The monster does not understand why these small drops of tears calm him. He only knows that he wants her to live and smile. That is exactly why he used this power. Tita taps him with her hoof and persuades him to return. If he becomes the same again, she promises to give him everything. She says with tears that she will be with him as he wanted. He suddenly remembers her name Tita and immediately remembers that he is an orc. He immediately restores the seal while still conscious. He does not want her to cry anymore, so he must wipe her tears now and fulfill her wish. Suddenly, he raises his hands and joyfully wonders, how can he make Tita disappear if he intends to be with her? Tita looks at her in surprise. The elves are embarrassed and laugh awkwardly, but only Tanya laughs loudly. The orc returns to his usual appearance and says he is ready to sink through the earth from shame. Tita closes her eyes and then hugs him and kisses him, while the orc continues to stand in place with eyes wide open in surprise. He woke up in bed, groaning. Restoring the seal exhausted him. The tension in his body was such that he slept for 3 days and 3 nights and still had not recovered. Tita approaches him with a smile and says that the food is ready. She feeds him with a spoon, explaining that it is elven porridge, and after trying it, he enthusiastically says that it is delicious. She blew on the food and said it was tasty, all thanks to his advice. To her surprise, it turned out quite well. When Tita said that he could love her, he would gladly do it here and now, but he cannot, and this trial continues to this day. The orc, as if not believing, asks if she really does not care, and if she did not say that she wanted to be the only one. She quietly smiles and says that she once said so, but then realized it is better to be in his harem than to part with him, especially since he risked his life for her. Then she says that no one will ever love her like he does. He thinks how sweet she is. She is so sweet that it shows in everything, and he does not understand why his body does not move. He orders himself to move, to stir. He is already begging himself to shift right now. Suddenly he jumped out of his clothes and, surprised, said that his body suddenly began to move. What a miracle. He told her that he wants to do it. Now Tita is so sweet that he cannot resist, and she agreed. She says she will forgive him all those girls, but he better prepare, she will drive him crazy. Moreover, he has gone so mad that he did not even think about other girls, so let him be ready. The orc cannot stop thinking about her long elven ears. He has dreamed since childhood of touching them. He urges to fully enjoy each other. This became his first step on the path to creating a harem. Tita is sleeping. The orc is preparing something. She wakes up and says it smells good. He approaches with cups, wishes her good morning, and asks if she feels better already. She says she feels better and that he was simply incredible. She even fainted. He tells her to drink coffee. They drink coffee together in bed, and the orc especially enjoys his morning cup. She asks if it is coffee. The bittersweet taste gently wakes her up. The orc says that there is not a single coffee bean to be found on the entire continent, so he had to create them with magic and a bit of chemistry, and he proudly adds that it turned out very beautiful. Someone suggests going to the lake. Another says it would be very useful since they are both dirty. They swim in the lake. Titus says that his gaze is very frightening and warns that that's enough for today. Smiling, he adds that he is a gentleman and will not pounce on her now. He thinks that the view of the beautiful lake and the beautiful elf is simply stunning. He considers it a masterpiece, except for one thing. He looks at the worm's corpse. The disgusting stench still lingers in the forest, and he hears something from what happened next. The one who broke the seal was killed by the elves. He was poisoned with a slow-acting poison, and it seems he would have died anyway. He was simply silenced. Those who controlled him are very cautious. They walk past the ruins. The elves examine everything. One asks what's there. The other answers that it is bad here, and this field is also barren. Orc and Tita hear that restoring the village will take a very long time, and one of them says that it is terrible. The pink slime of the demon beetle eats away the land. The elders are now deciding what to do, but if everything stays as it is, they will not survive the winter. Orc thoughtfully considers, if he just gave them what they need, the proud elves would not approve of such charity, but there is a way to make them have a good reason not to refuse. Orc tells Tita that he has an idea. She asks if he has come up with a way to help them. He asks her to take him to the elder so they can discuss something. Tanya asks if he really wants to support the village, and he says he wants to help restore it and provide food for the winter, to which Tanya sadly replies that it is true, the demonic beetle destroyed their fields and there are no food supplies. She says that they cannot accept his offer because they are proud. Orc expected them to refuse him because elves are a proud race. He explains that helping his wife's family is natural, pride is also important, but is it right to let the villagers die? Tanya says they will move forward and somehow manage. Orc says he does not see an easy way. There will be sick and wounded in the village. Tanya says that caring for the sick will only add burden. It will be a vicious circle. Tanya admits that they have nothing to repay him with. Orc understands. It would be much easier to just say and accept it as thanks for Tita becoming his wife, but he will not say that. They are together through love, and as soon as he says such a hypocritical word, everything will become a lie. Orc tells them that if they want to thank him that way, there is only one option. He wants the beetle's body for the demons, and Tanya and Tita look at him stunned and embarrassed. Tanya replies that she does not care, but why? He knows that it secretes poisonous slime that eats everything and says he will find a use for it. Orc is delighted. He says that it is incredible, and with it, he will earn 10 times more than he spent on food. Tanya looks at the others, they nod, and she turns to the orc. I entrust this to you, make sure the elven village is safe. The orc asks them not to bow, says it's an equal exchange, assures that he will quickly deal with the corpse, and, as a special favor, will clean everything for free. They go to the field, the man fusses, cleans everything, and bitterly says that the speech can no longer be saved. Tita says that restoring everything will be harder than she thought, and the orc agrees and says that is exactly why he is here. He summons water fairies. Tita asks what he is doing. He will spread slime everywhere. The orc calmly says to him, look closer. He says that this is pure water. It cannot be spilled or polluted. If the slime is left in the shell, it will not corrode anything else. After that, he calls earth fairies. A huge hole opens in the ground. All the drops fly straight there. The orc happily says that they have finally cleaned the slime, and Tita smiles and notes that the orc is carefree as always. The man begins to cry and quietly hugs the orc in his thoughts. The orc and Tita smile. Then the orc looked at the monster's corpse and suggested that Tita deal with it. She asked if it was true that they would be paid for it. He says that his skin is incredible. Even powerful fire magic, released by his hero power, could not completely burn it, as armor it would be the best material in the world. He hands her the sword and asks her to try cutting with it. She takes it, obeys, and cuts the corpse. She shouts that it is impossible, the sword could not have hurt her, and the orc says that the strike was successful. The orc asked if she now understood what value she had, that she would not only help feed all the elves, but also bring in money. She asked how exactly he planned to modify her. He replies that he will use something much better than all other things, a cane with a blade, given to him by Merlin and Light on the occasion of his graduation. The orc holds the cane and summons a surge of magic. All the power is concentrated in this weapon. Tita whispered in surprise, this cannot be. The orc says that only this weapon can withstand his power. He thrusts the knife, the monster's corpse crumbles into pieces. Tita continues to watch. The parts fall into place one after another, and the orc says, well, that's how it is. Now they will not have to worry about armor materials for the rest of their lives, tied to size, and he says that nothing else will surprise her anymore. The orc growls that the fireproof skin has been removed. Now he will finish this. Using the purge, everything is cleansed. The orc smiles and says he has already done everything, destroyed the remains of the demonic beetle, can sell the skin and buy some food. Tita says that although it is a bit late to talk about this, since he has settled everything, it is not too late to take up the plow. The orc, with a self-satisfied smile, said that it is a pity to waste such a good thing, there is so much of it, so he will give her some money. He notices something. In front of him, a cane with a broken half. He looks down and sees the other half. Tita waits for his reaction. He first quietly and calmly says that it is broken, then suddenly begins to scream loudly in panic. He says that the gift from the teacher at graduation is one of a kind, and Tita asks him to be careful. He realized that he had overloaded the blade when he stabbed it into the flesh of the demon beetle. The caustic slime made it brittle, and he screams, how can I now look my teacher in the eyes? Tita asks hopefully, isn't there a way to bring it back? He can do everything, right? And he replies, no, he can't. He says that it is made of orichalcum, and only a few chosen families have it. The teacher could use his incredible magic to find a loophole and get it, but it is beyond his power. After a pause, he awkwardly says that he still yields to his teachers. It hurts him deeply to lose the best blade in the world. He did not use it as he should have. He probably could have cast a strengthening spell in advance. He thinks that maybe he got a bit carried away because they treated him like a hero, and he will never forgive himself for that. Tita calls him, presses his hand, and encourages him. Don't be sad, I'll treat you to an elven dish. Ort smiles and asks if she means baked vegetables. She replies that she cannot deny that. He tells Tita that he will restore it by his own power, so this is the beginning, and then he calls her to pack his things. He knows that he is still inexperienced, so there is still a chance. Near the Tree of the World, everyone gathered to see off the orc. Tanya sincerely thanks him for everything he has done for them. The village does not accept outsiders, but they are always glad to see him there. The orc replies that the feeling is mutual. Living here has become a real pleasure for him, and Tita's mother asks her to visit them from time to time, to which Tita sincerely promises that she will definitely come. Tanya thanks him once again and says that her granddaughter is a lucky girl. After that, everyone bows to them. On the way, the orc mentally rejoices that he came to this village, met Tita, and married her, but he cannot stop. He needs to become better and stronger so that his harem grows. Tita tells him that she hopes he never meets another girl because she still hates harems. The orc says he is glad that Tita is so understanding. They walk through the city, and Tita excitedly says that human cities are so lively she had not seen this because when she was captured, she was kept in a cage all the time. The orc says that now that she wears the earrings he made for her, everything will be fine. This magical trick that distorts perception makes everyone around see her as an ordinary person. Tita says that all this is thanks to him. The orc suggests taking a walk around the city. They are in a shop. The orc asks to be shown a comb. The seller tells him that he has good taste. The comb is made to order. Tita looks at the comb with flowers and stones and is happy. The orc says that it is a gift for her. She smiles very happy, but says that it is expensive. The orc tells her, "Don't think about it, I can afford it." A man who's going to create a harem will never let his wives worry about money. Over time, he will have more wives and children, and he will earn as much as needed to create his harem. How happy he is that the god of merchants taught him he will not buy happiness with money, but honestly, without money, one can forget about a peaceful life. He says that people have created so many amazing things, but to experience them all, you have to pay for it, and he wants Tita to have fun too. He does not just want to live, he wants to enjoy life. Tita says that this is wonderful, and then takes his words literally. Tita says that she does not want to be a freeloader. She wants him to tell her when he needs her help to earn money, and he agrees. Tita has considerable business acumen, and her attractive appearance will make her noticeable throughout the city. Strangely, merchants are very careful about their appearance. Unfortunately, people value what is outside more than what is inside. The prettier the girl, the more readily she is trusted, so the best traders refine their taste and dress even more elegantly. In a year or so of training, she will become his assistant, and maybe in 3 years she will be able to call herself his right hand. They pass by a shop and stop. Tita asks what he is buying. He replies that it is a staff and that there is a good selection here. He believes that none of them can replace the cane given to him by the teacher, because its magical power is so great that no staff can withstand its full power and will break. The seller rudely asked if he even knows how much they cost, implying that a guy like him could not afford such a thing. The orc dumps all the gold on the table, and the seller's pupils instantly dilate. He counts and says, 20 million gil. The seller asks if he is from the royal family. The orc thinks that money from the cats continues to come in. The orc chooses one staff and says that it is a good thing it is made from magically sensitive fir wood that grew for 100 years in dragon vein soil, and it will withstand 1 or 2 uses of his full power. He thinks that it does not come close to the quality of orichalcum, from which the mentor's staff is made. The orc noticed a sign with a prophetic sword on the wall, asked the seller what it was, then turned and pondered. The seller says that the whole blacksmith's guild is buzzing about it. The oracle's sword completes everything, although the hero has not yet been found. Orc smiles. The oracle's sword is Mev, gifted to the hero by God himself. The clan of divine steel is chosen, and within it is a special sword priestess who received a revelation from above and connected it with orichalcum. The priestess then stuck it into the sacred stone on holy ground. Only a hero could pull out the oracle's sword. Orc told Tita that he decided where they would go next. She asked if he would really pull out the sword, and he smiled and answered yes, he is a hero, though he hides it, and he can pull out this sword. He says that if the oracle's sword is made from the same material as the teacher's staff, then it will withstand its power. Suddenly he hears men saying that the sword priestess is a real beauty, and in general, the clan of divine steel is full of beauties. Tita notices the orc's strange behavior. Orc shouts wildly at Tita to go ahead. If this is really about the sacred sword, then he already has one, so now they will go look for a sheath for it. Tita says this is not funny at all, and the orc shouts at the sword priestess to wait. Her fiancé is already coming to her. Orc exclaimed, "We have arrived. This is the holy land where the sacred sword rests and where the clan of divine steel lives. This mountain is the only place in the world where orichalcum is mined, and at its foot lies a city." The oracle's sword silently lurked deep within the impenetrable sacred land, waiting for the hero who would come and take it, or so it thought. A crowd of men strives to pull out the sword. Someone shouts that this is the end of the line for the sacred sword. Will anyone be able to pull out the sacred sword? Waiting in line will only take 6 hours. The street is teeming with merchants. This place has become a tourist attraction. There is always a crowd near the stone with the sacred sword, and although entering inside is forbidden, everyone can enter the outer courtyard. In the struggle for the sacred sword, a huge muscular man tried to wrench the blade out, but in vain. The caretaker calls the next one. Orc says with disappointment that this is the sword of the oracle, and Tita asks what he will do. He didn't even suspect that there was such a mess here. He really didn't want to stand in this queue, but still agreed to those conditions. Tita is eating. Orc says that the stew of the sacred sword is incredibly tasty. They profit from the fact that it might get cold soon. Tita asks him if we like to discuss business. He doesn't have to stand in line. He will leave only when everyone gets tired of waiting. If he wants, he will give some money to a few and take their places, but will simply enjoy the date with Tita. He offers her to try the sacred machiaki, but suddenly someone pushes Tita from behind and she falls. Tita asks worriedly if everything is okay. She either says that everything is fine or shyly apologizes for being inattentive. The stranger, calling Tita an elf, apologizes for bumping into her. She stretches out her hands and says that she is also at fault. Orc Froze then asked hoarsely, did she just call her an elf? How did she know that Tita is an elf? Tato wears special earrings that he made for her. Could an ordinary person really see the high-class magic hidden in them? The stranger asks if they tried to hide it. Orc asks if she can see who he is. She thinks and replies that it's not quite so. Looking closely at his soul, as soon as she sees that he is an orc, she starts screaming. Orc tells her that she reacts like Tita. She panicked and ran away. He caught up with her in seconds, noticed how fast she is, and asked if she is a beastman. She screams that he caught up with her. He replies that it is because he is faster. She screams to her mom and dad in heaven and asks them for forgiveness. The orc tells her that he will not attack her. He tells her that he will not do this, so she should stop. She shouts that all criminals say that. Orc agrees, and she is outraged that he does not even object. The orc says it's not about that, it was just too dangerous to keep running further. He suddenly stops at the edge of the cliff, and the girl falls down. The orc managed to grab her hand. The cloak flew off his shoulders, and he pulled her to the surface. She was breathing heavily and whispered that she thought she was going to die, but the orc saved her. Now he understands, no wonder she saw who they really are. Foxes with ears and fluffy tails, living in the sacred land in the clan of Divine Steel. They are half human, half foxes. The orc introduced himself and gave his name. She said her name was Kururu. He said he was glad she was unharmed. He says that if she died, she would not be able to become part of his harem. She screams, panic overtakes her, so he is still a criminal. The orc notices the fire fairies. Karuru is very pleased with the fire fairies of the Divine Steel clan. They are so attached to her that she must be outstanding even among her clan. He wonders if she is the priestess who forged the sword of the oracle, and in general, according to the orc, she is so sweet. The orc unexpectedly met her, a resident of the Holy Land, a representative of the Divine Steel clan, a half-human, half-fox girl with a fluffy tail and fox ears. He says that Kururu is a fox, and she jumped up in surprise. The orc says he would like to ask if she wants to join his harem. She refuses. Doesn't he understand that they met for the first time? Orca, as always, was rejected. Tita ran up to them and, gasping, said that they were so fast she barely caught up, and Orc apologized and said he should have picked her up when he was running away. Tita asks him if he is bothering her. He was going to do it while holding his beloved in his arms. He confidently replies that this is exactly what he wanted. Karuru asks if she is his lover. She smiles and says that it is absolutely true. She asks why he behaves that way if he already has a girlfriend, and first of all, wouldn't that anger Titu? The orc asks, didn't he say he wanted to create a harem? Nothing strange, there really are many girls in the harem. Tita tells her that although it is unpleasant, she became the orc's lover, fully aware of his intention to create a harem. Karua, confused, says she does not understand them and says goodbye. The orc also says goodbye to her. Finally, she returns to them. She asks him if it is possible that he is going to pull out the oracle's sword. He answers yes. Kururu says that this must not be done, asks if he understood it, and silently leaves. Taita asks what she was trying to say, and the orc replies that he is sure she would not speak so simply. After all, she is from the Divine Steel clan, and most likely the very priestess who forged the sword of the oracle. Tita asks him if it is normal that they broke up so quickly, and Orc replies that no matter how much he tried to convince her, it is now pointless. And he was not going to easily give up on the girl. He had already set his eyes on would gather every little detail about Kururu and come up with a plan to make her fall in love with him. After all, I have a weakness for fox ears, and he was already planning to lure a girl with such ears into his harem to enjoy her fluffy tail to the fullest. Tita suspiciously asks what he is thinking about, and he waves it off. Nothing, and suggests returning to the city and pulling out the oracle's sword. They return and again see the same queue. Tita says the queue is still too long. Orc says there are too many people wanting here. He approaches the man, gives him gold, says he has saved a place for him, and then thanks him. He calls Tita to the line and says that he is here, has taken his place. She asks, is this normal? Isn't it unfair? He does not say this at all. He paid a decent amount, is satisfied, and they are too because they took his place. Everyone is winning. Tita says that he, as always, is incredible. Tita tells him that he is next. The orc understands that there are only 30 seconds left. The leader shouted to the previous one that time was up. The orc said he would quickly pull him out, and they would return. Suddenly someone approaches. Everyone shouts, "It can't be, Mr. Levin is coming here," and the orc asks what is happening. This Levin approaches and calls himself the Knight of the White Rose. He asks if there is anyone who does not know the two names given to him by His Highness. The crowd shouts and applauds. He stepped onto the battlefield for the first time during the war for Maria Luna, and since then he has taken part in countless battles. He is the strongest knight of this era. Orc and Tita just stare at him as if their eyes have gone silent. The crowd shouts that he has strength, good looks, and everything a true hero needs. Orc shouts, "Now it's my turn," but someone else growls, "The kingdom is more important, so shut up." The knight struck with his sword and said that he had been calling him all this time, then apologized to the sword for making it wait. Orc and Tita look with disgust. The knight is a true narcissist to the bone. The host invites everyone to see what Mr. Levin, the Knight of the White Rose, will show. The knight turned to the sacred sword and said, "Come to me, I am a hero," calmly pulled, and nothing happened. After this, he pulls harder and with a terrible grimace tries to pull it out. The host says that time is up. The crowd screams in horror that this cannot be. Tita smiles and says he is funny, and the orc says he is a hero, but in a different way. Knight covers the sadness he was not chosen. At that moment, the orc approaches and asks the leader for permission to try. They say, "Do whatever you want." He easily draws the sword, raises it up, and tells Tita that he has drawn it. Now they go. Tita agrees and adds that today they will have lunch at the tavern with a local dish. She can hardly wait. They walk, saying that the local dishes are really tasty. The whole crowd rushes after him and asks him to wait a minute. The orc anticipated this. They ask who the hell he is. They say a guy from the backwoods cannot be a hero, that's what they say. The knight approaches and says that finally everything is clear to him. Now he understands everything. He claims that when he tried to pull it out, he almost succeeded because the sword was barely holding, so the orc managed to pull it out, and the knight is sure that this is exactly how it was, and the orc asks if he is really sure that everything is okay. The whole crowd shouts that he is a fake hero. The orc grumbles through all the noise. Someone shouts if he is real, let him fight for humanity, and from the shadows comes a stranger who suggests doing it like this. The man says that this guy and the Knight of the White Rose must face each other in a duel. If he is a real hero, he will win, and if not, then he was just lucky to pull out the sword. The orc asks him, "Who are you?" The soldiers say, "This is incredible. This is a great proposal, as befits a commander." The orc tells them that he refuses. The knight asks, "Why not? With this sword he will prove that he is a hero." The orc shouts, "And what will I get from this?" He snatched the sword and now it is his. He says he is leaving. They shout at him, "Stop," and say that this is also for his benefit. If he wins, he will get a reward. He asks for more details. They say they will give gold. The orc replies that this is not enough. He risks his life in this duel, so he asks for more. They constantly raise the stakes. The orc keeps asking for more. In such situations, he will not go with the flow. He switches to business mode. The style of negotiations changes depending on who you are talking to. If it's a merchant, he simply tries to prove his point, and in negotiations, it's not so important to win or lose, it's more important to make him surrender. But now there are soldiers in front of him, so he doesn't know what they want. If he pushes further, they will just retreat, and he doesn't care if these negotiations break down. The soldiers extend the sum. The orc sees their reaction and understands that he cannot offer more. He says he agrees. The soldiers shout joyfully that it's great, and say that they have an agreement. In a few days they will have a duel. Tata tells him that for some reason this has become a problem. The orc assures that there is nothing to worry about, and she asks if the knight is strong. Tita asks if he is not strong as a human. He answers that if strength is measured by ordinary soldiers, an ordinary human is about 100, and he is about 10,000. The orc says that getting a reward for a minute-long duel would be nice. Tita asks how he knows this. Had they mentioned a time limit? They step back. The orc says he has only a minute to do this, and suddenly the crowd gathers again. Kururu shouts, "Let her go, she must break this sword." The soldiers shout to stop the sword priestess. The orc recognizes her. She keeps shouting that she must destroy this fake. It stains the history and pride of their mothers. He thinks, is this sword fake? The orc tells her that they have met again. Kururu starts shouting that he is an orc, but he manages to shut her up. Orc asks the soldier to let her go. The soldier wants to object, but the orc says it's all right, and Kururu notices the sword in his hand. She asks if he really drew it. He replies that it's true. This is the oracle's sword which she forged. He asks her to talk alone because he needs the sword. She, overwhelmed with panic, begins to nervously describe what it's like to be alone with an orc. She mumbles that she must destroy the sword, but if she goes with him, he will use it, and then she won't be able to get married. She again turns to her mother and says that for the honor of the clan, Kururu agrees, but fears why this happened to her. The orc thinks that her nightmare delusions have no end. The orc says that if she is so afraid, Tita can go with them, and Tita agrees, saying that it's a good idea. She became even more scared. Are there really 3 of us? Who would have thought that her first time would be like this? Later at the hotel, the orc asks her to drink something hot and calm down. She screams that it's poison and such substances don't exist, do they? Tita returns to Kururu and asks her to calm down first. The orc will not touch the girl if she doesn't want it, and the orc agrees, adding that it's his rule. He explains that he will not touch a girl he doesn't like. She pleased him at first sight. He will not touch her until she reciprocates. Kyoru begs him, don't look at me like that. On closer inspection, she thinks he is very handsome. If she thinks about it, she has never talked to a boy in her life. She says that this pocket watch belonged to a master craftsman from Russellbook, and the elf's comb is made of the finest jade, beautiful, luxurious, and durable. Maybe one can overlook the fact that he is an orc. The orc says that she is strangely strong-willed and observant. He lays the sword on the floor and says that she wanted to destroy this sword. What a wasted time it was. He understands how she felt. Kyoru asks why he said that, and he says there are several reasons for it. He boasts that his mother is a heroine of the Blue Storm, so he has seen the oracle's sword since childhood, but compared to his mother's sword, his is much worse. She asks if he is really the son of a hero. He does not understand this, and her sword is much worse. Did he really understand what she was talking about regarding this sword? He takes the sword out of his backpack, hands it to her, and says that he forged it himself. His mentor taught him alchemy, and so he made this sword. They used magic silver. It is undoubtedly much worse than orichalcum, but in the sword's decoration, it looks better. Kyoru wants to say something, but instead of words, she just sadly lowers her head. The orc says that her sword impresses by how she infused and extracted magical energy from the metal. In this he is better, but the real difference is in skills, and this is what he assumes. Kyoru says that she understands what he means. He really understands it, and she acknowledges it. The orc says that his sword is better because he knows more than her. Her blade is inferior to the oracle sword of the mother. She lacks the necessary knowledge and cheats by simply copying its form without understanding. Technically it is flawless, but she lacks knowledge. She says, in other words, another year or two of training, and she will be able to forge a sword worthy of the name Oracle Sword, no, most likely even better. The orc told her that she is still learning, and then asked why she was in such a hurry to forge it. She fell silent for a moment, then quietly confessed. Her mother, who was her mentor, was killed. Now she remained the only priestess of the sword. The orc noticed the weapon in her hand. It was a hammer orichalcum, the best orichalcum hammer in the world. She says she just learned from her mother, but from above they said the sword of the oracle was needed. She tried, but in the end it was an unfinished sword. She had no idea that this failed sword would leave the workshop walls, but they took it, saying it would do. Suddenly she grabs the hammer and shouts that because of this she has to destroy it. She swings and strikes directly at the sword Tiddu, and the orc are stunned. The sword miraculously remained in its original form, without any damage. She asks how this is possible. It is an orichalcum hammer. The sword should have shattered, and the orc only explained that she had been swinging the hammer for so long that it filled the sword with magic. She shouts that this cannot be. He strengthened the sword by filling it with magic, even though this is a high-class spell. This is impossible. She asks in surprise, what kind of orc is he? He asks her if she does not want to destroy it. She is surprised. The orc explains that the world saw the imitation she created, and it stained the reputation of her mother and ancestors. He made the decision under the influence of his tragic resolve. He is sure that she will be happy not because of the humiliation of this sword, but because of the creation of a true oracle sword. Kyoru says she cannot do this, and that is what haunts her. The orc repeats again, she lacks knowledge and he has it. He says that his knowledge is not enough to forge orichalcum, and he suggests they join forces. He says that then they will be able to forge a prophetic sword that will not disgrace the clan of divine steel. He proposes to forge a sword for the two of them. She instantly agrees. The orc adds that they will even cut the wedding cake, and she immediately says she has no idea what he is talking about. The orc shouts that after work they can still go relax together and strengthen their relationship in the harem, and the oracle's sword will be the reason she will love him. Tita and Kyoru look at him as if he has lost his mind. Tita turns to the other and explains. Although he says she doesn't need to worry and her body is safe, she understands it's hard to believe, but he keeps his word. Kyoru says it's clear to her that's why he tries to stay silent. The orc asks her, do you like me now? And she sharply replies that she does not like him at all. The orc asks to wait a minute. He says he will print everything, and they curiously ask, what exactly is he going to print? The orc says that one look at this oracle sword is enough to understand what knowledge Kyoru lacks, so he decided to make a book, and Kyoru asks how long it will take. In a moment, he magically printed everything and handed the sheets to Kyujuru. She says that when she saw what he did with the sword, she was convinced he really has a powerful imagination. It's almost scary, and asks what training he had. He answers that he had the best teachers. The right environment, talent, and maybe motivation also played a role. The orc says that first she has to study all this, and then he will start teaching her. She happily says that just from one page it is clear this is exactly the knowledge she lacked, and it is worth its weight in gold. She sincerely thanks him for showing her something so valuable, and he says that soon she will become part of his harem. She sternly says that it won't come to that, probably it was strangely easy to pull off. The orc says that the last word belongs to Kururu, and even if she doesn't join his harem, he will use the sword she is about to forge, and she replies that he can be sure of that. If she manages to create a sword that surpasses her mother's, she won't want to show it off, she will want it to be used. It's another way for a blacksmith to demonstrate their skill. Kururu says she couldn't think of how to thank him. It tormented her. The orc starts speaking again. If she doesn't know how to thank him, then maybe joining his harem and being with him, but she immediately refuses. She says that it annoys her, so she allows him to lie on her tail. The orc immediately falls to his knees at her feet and asks her to take care of him. She wonders why he did that, and he thinks that her tail is his pillow, because it's so great to stroke that fluffy tail from the heart, and nothing more wonderful comes to his mind. The orc asks if he can try not only to lie on her tail, but also to rub against it, and she firmly answers, no, because he is afraid to imagine what else he will come up with. Once she agrees, she is already trembling nonstop. He steps back and tells her, learn the content, I still have material for 500 pages. He decides to cut down a few trees to get some leaves. He calls Titty to come and gather them. He happily thinks that the fairy tale is his pillow, like a dream. Who could have imagined that a childhood dream would come true, and now no one will stop him? Tita looks at him with disappointment and asks what that was. For some reason she thought she could see on his face. No one will stop him. He denies it and says that he suddenly felt as if his leg was tied. He says he is tied to his beloved, and Tita shouted that it didn't sound cool at all. He not only started hitting on someone else, but he also annoys her for no reason. He tensely asks if she minds Kururu joining the harem. She quietly replies no. She likes Karura and seems like a good girl. She also wants to help her, and that pleases the orc. She wants to say something, but the orc looks out the window and thinks that soldiers are watching him to prevent him from escaping the duel. He turns to Titus and says that Karura's arrival in the harem will not change his feelings for her. He will love them with all his heart, in an orcish way. He grabs Tita's hand and they suddenly fly out the window. Harems are not that simple. In a harem, everyone has to get along. The friendship of Kururu and Tita is also important. The path to the harem is thorny, but he still will not give up. He printed a complete book about blacksmithing and alchemy, a course for intermediate level. Kururu reads it enthusiastically, and the orc tells her that it is already morning and asks if he is okay after a sleepless night. She sighs and says she can hold back. His book is simply incredible. How can she fall asleep if she is reading such a wonderful book? The orc smiles and says that if she loves it so much, so be it. But on closer inspection, it is clear that she unconsciously uses internal energy, so nothing will happen to her even if she does not sleep all night, and she even memorizes alchemical techniques as if nothing happened, and he wonders, is she accidentally a genius? He says it's time for him to go, and she suddenly remembers he has a duel that night. She instantly stands up, blocks the way, and says she will go too. He asks if she really wants to cheer him on, and she replies that by seeing him in battle, she will understand what sword to forge for him. He suggests waking Tita. She asks if she is needed for something specific. He says he wants to show off in front of his beloved. She says he is a good lover, and he betrays her right before her eyes. He says that is not true, he just wants to love Kururu while loving Tita at the same time. She says that she intends to become his lover, and asks what will happen if a beautiful girl passes by him, and he replies that it is a strange question. He answers that he will propose to her right in front of everyone, and she says that he is really a very bad person. He says that this is his orcish way. He understands that he is shameless, but strives to be sensible and hide nothing. Both leave. Tita says that it is good that they want to take them away, but aren't there too many of these soldiers? The orc replies that it is precisely so that he does not run away. They are, so to speak, being led there. They approach the arena, and they are filled with amazement. The orc asks why turn all this into an attraction. They say that people also play spec. White Rose is insanely popular. It has crazy odds. The orc extends a bag of gold to Kujuru and orders her to bet everything on him, and she says that it is not very nice of him. He sees girls rushing to the knight. The orc says that a reward still awaits him. The knight replies that he indeed did not run away. He smiles and says that he does not believe it. He agreed to come and publicly humiliate himself for a few coins. The orc feels as if he is beginning to be drawn to him. He sincerely admires how much he has already managed to do. At that moment, Tita got offended and angry, threw at the knight. Don't be arrogant, the orc is strong. And the knight, noticing Tita, froze in surprise. He immediately tells her that she is incredibly beautiful, worthy of being his princess. He asks why she is with him. She answers that she loves him, that's why she is with him. The knight asks if he has not bewitched her with black magic. He gently kisses her hand and says he will break this ugly curse. He will definitely defeat him and return to her having said goodbye to her. He leaves. Karuru says how pathetic he is, and Tita sharply replies, he is not pathetic at all, he is simply disgusting. They notice that the orc is trembling all over. He fiercely shouts that the knight is now dead. He had the audacity to cast a glance at his wife. He thought he could restrain himself, but it did not happen. Karuru says he seems indifferent when he himself cheats on his beloved with other girls right in front of him, but when some other guy does the same to his beloved, it infuriates him terribly. Tita says that if she knows he loves her, then maybe she should be a little happy about his jealousy. The orc ordered them to sit in the stands and watch. Then he asked Tita how she would like him to die, and she replied that she should not kill him, that would probably bring them trouble. The host announces, it is time to find out who is worthy to become the hero and the wielder of the sword of the oracle. He tells the contenders to enter the ring. They enter the ring. They wish death to Orc. They have placed a large bet on the Knight of the White Rose. Let him not disturb Mr. Levin. Tata and Kururu loudly cheer for him in the crowd. The knight says that it seems the audience already knows who the real hero is. The orc says that it should have been decided by who draws the sword, the angry knightess. She had already told him earlier that she almost drew it, and he just throws the sword into her hands. He shouted and then threw the sword himself, saying it was heavy. The floor where the sword fell begins to crack. The orc picked up the sword and asked, see. As expected, he cannot use it. He got angry and said something is clearly wrong. Probably it was pulled out by the wrong person, and now he believes it is his, and Kururu says that he obviously does not know about the properties of orichalcum. She says that orichalcum is incredibly dense. The sword itself weighs just under 5 tons. No one could pull it out because no one could lift it, but orichalcum becomes lighter if you ask the spirits for help. In other words, if you are not a hero with the spirit mark, you cannot use a weapon made of orichalcum. The knight sighs and says that when he defeats him, he will make this sword fully understand who its true master is. He says he will show him his secret move, how to beautifully paint a bouquet, and adds a splash of roses. The orc looks closely and does not believe it are those real roses. If he wore them among those on his back, he would shield himself from the roses with his forearm. The knight shouts that he has won because these roses contain poison that can put even an elephant into a coma. The orc waved it off, threw away the roses, and declared that he was not even scratched. The girls are delighted, shouting his name. He always protects his body with internal energy, so such a trifle will not pierce him. The knight tensed and said that if that is so, he has no choice, he will put an end to this with his beautiful sword. He says that the tip of the blade is covered with poison that instantly kills an elephant. The orc asks him if he has something against elephants. The knight swung the weapon sharply, but the orc easily dodged. The knight does not understand why his blows with divine speed do not hit the target, and the orc asks if it is really divine speed, so do not laugh at him. The skill of his mother, the heroine of the Blue Storm, was faster than thunder, and beside her he seemed frozen. The orc says he hardly fought swordsmen, so let him watch and learn, let him take what he can, don't be stingy. The orc says he might not even thank, if not let them finish this quickly. The knight retreated, he doesn't believe he can be scared. Impossible. He shouts that he will show true power, the most powerful secret strike with super divine speed, surpassing the strike of divine speed. The orc asks what kind of pompous name, that is, he is a Chunabu to the core. The knight rushes at him with words meant to destroy him, precise like a deadly aim. He releases pink flashes. The blade of the knife broke off and flew from him. The orc thinks that such a piercing sword attack surpasses divine speed, add the flight speed, and the speed it gained at the moment of launch, and the attack surpasses divine and super divine speed. This is the strongest technique of the White Rose. The orc thrusts the sword right in front of him and fiercely asks, are you stupid? He just released the blade, let him get rid of it. The knight roars his strongest technique didn't work. It can't be, says the orc, I'll finish him right now. The orc swung the sword and asks to be allowed to warn him to try with all his might to stop this. Otherwise, he will die. He raises the sword and is about to show him that powerful technique he inherited from his mother. Movements enhanced by inner energy and mana rushed faster even than the super divine speed of the light rose. The peculiarity of the oracle sword is that when it is filled with the power of spirits, it becomes as light as a feather. Such lightness can surpass even divine speed. When you release mana during the swing, the sword returns to its true weight. In other words, it is a cutting strike from shoulder to waist with divine speed and colossal weight. He lowers the sword. The strike tears the knight's clothing. The knight presses his whole body against the wall so hard that it cracks. The orc says he will not die. The knight gets up, moves forward, says, that was beautiful, calls him a hero, and suddenly falls. The orc says ironically, who would have thought he held on just to say that? The host announces that the orc won. Everyone shouts, what nonsense is this? Says he is a loser, and even asked Mr. Levnu how his face is doing. The orc raises his head, sees the girls in the seats, and in his thoughts asks Tita or Kururu if she saw how he used the oracle's sword like that. They decide to celebrate the orc's victory, and their meeting they sit in some establishment and enjoy drinks contentedly. Tita enthusiastically says how delicious this honey drink is. The orc says the traditional main dish will be ready soon. Kururu asks to wait. She says this hotel is quite expensive, but the orc immediately reassures her. Don't worry, I will, of course, pay for everything. I earned well today in the duel. The odds jumped to 12, so he received gold coins that's about 20 million yen. Kururu tells him that he has no reason to treat her on the contrary. She is grateful to him for teaching her so much. The orc says that treating this sweet girl to delicious food and seeing joy on her face is exactly why he does it. She thanks him but says she doesn't need it. The orc then tells her, consider it payment for the side job he was forbidden to bet on himself, so it was just a thank you for her placing a bet instead of him. Kururu sadly bowed her head, and Tata nudged her. Dive into the food, good things should be shared. She agrees and says she is with them. The orc asks her if she notices that she is starting to wag her tail. The waiter places the food on the table and apologizes for the delay. They all have dinner together at pleasant company. They are already sitting at a table outdoors and say it was delicious, and Tata is simply delighted. Kururu says she even envies them. She is unlikely to ever have the chance to be in such an expensive place again. Ort says that if she becomes his wife, she will be able to go to such places whenever she wants. Kururu asks him if he really wants to be with a girl so obsessed with money. The orc says she misunderstood him. He has already fallen in love with her and is even ready to use such methods to get her attention. She admits she is starting to think it's not so bad, and that scares her. The orc says he is surprised she has so little money, although she is already quite skilled and could earn as a blacksmith. Kururu asks if he wants to know the reason, and instead of a direct answer, hints at it through his behavior. He says she is right, that's why he hasn't asked until now, but now everything is different. She wanted them to ask if it was true. She agrees and says that she hasn't had such a fun lunch for a long time and hasn't made new friends probably, just didn't want to appear weak. Then she asks to be listened to, and after a pause says that she is greatly troubled by problems. She begins to tell that she is poor. Not only was her mother killed, but her uncle also stole her annual income, and the sword maidens cannot openly sell weapons, so he has big financial problems, and they are surprised that everything turned out to be so simple. The orc insists details cannot be omitted in any way. Then, after her mother was killed, he asks for more. Kururu says that this is not entirely true. The orc says that, first of all, the oracle's sword was not created for a hero. It is simply an item that can only be used when it controls spirit energy. Kururu agrees and sincerely says that they, the Divine Steel clan, can also use it. She takes the sword. Tita is stunned. Kururu explains, fire spirits adore members of the Divine Steel clan, who also know how to control spiritual energy, and they ask her, so why then the oracle's sword? She says it is needed to seal the god of misfortunes himself, and they anxiously ask her if such a being really exists in the Holy Land and who this god of misfortunes is. It is a god who grants almost any wish, but does so in a sinister form. She has heard several stories about him. One man wished for gold and silver, suddenly turned into a monster. Then the god took over his mind and he began to steal, and when he came to his senses, he found himself before a pile of treasures collected after he killed all the people in the city. Or the girl who asked him to save her mother, a powerful earthquake struck in an instant, taking the lives of her mother and thousands of others, and he healed her illness with the help of death itself. Tita says what a terrible way to fulfill wishes. The orc agrees and says the worst part is that he is so powerful. Kururu says that because of such cases, people try to avoid the god of misfortunes. Everyone starts thinking that way. The orc asks, is it true that if you sincerely wish, you will get what you desire? Everyone thinks so. Everyone believed that if there was not a drop of evil intent in the wish, everything would be fine. None of them had ever made a wish before, but people still kept trying. The orc says this is true recklessness. Kururu says this is the greatest secret of the clan, and since there are plenty of those eager to break the seal, it is now sealed in the strictest secrecy. It is the duty of their clan to secretly seal this god of misfortunes, and they, the clan of Divine Steel, carry it out in secret. The orc hints that he was sealed with this sword. She says that is true. The essence of the sealing ritual is that they use the orichalcum sword. With it, they cut out the orichalcum in which the power of the god of misfortune is imprisoned, and the orc adds that this is a very famous sealing method. When it comes to an evil god, no matter how much they restrain him, his power still seeps out, so it must be regularly dispersed. For this, orichalcum is perfect. It holds a huge amount of energy. It is used to take power, weaken it, and disperse it. 6 months ago, the sealing ritual took place. It was led by Kururu's mother, the sword priestess herself. When the mother was about to cut the orichalcum, she suddenly noticed that her uncle had swapped her sword for his own. She thought if she stops now, the seal will not hold, so she completed the ritual with her uncle's imperfect sword, but the energy that filled her did not dissipate, and she still did it can be said she was killed. The orc asked if this was exactly what she meant when she said she was killedwy. Did her uncle do that? She replied that the uncle wanted to become the sword priest. If she could complete the ritual with the sword he forged, only then could she say it was perfect. If she is defeated, she will shatter her mother's hopes and pay for it. He insisted that he did not substitute the sword. He maintained that the ugly sword they used in the ceremony belonged to her mother. Then the uncle ran away with the money that mother had saved for her. Of course, he did not have the power of a sword priest, so he could not perform the ritual. Soon the next sealing ceremony was to take place within the Shaken ritual, accessible only to the clan, and in this situation, Orichalcum desperately tried to create a semblance of a prophetic sword. But the rulers of the country most likely decided that this sword was not good enough, and trying to cover its flaws with skill and mastery, they set out to find a hero. She knows for sure that one of the country's rulers will come and ask him to perform the ritual, so she tells about the clan's secrets. He asks if she thinks he will manage. She replies that hardly. It's not about strength, but about the sword that can cut the soul. She says that she tried to destroy this copy of the sword of the oracle, so that no one else would end their life, that Weish did not want anyone to die because of her sword. Now the orc understood everything. Kururu said she was proud of her family, but he could not imagine that she was so serious, was really afraid that someone might die because of the sword, and now the orc asks her what she will do. She says she will forge the perfect blade, and then perform a ritual on the ceiling. She says that thanks to him, she now believes she can cope. The orc says that from now on he will try to teach better. The orc stands up and suggests going to her house. She even screams and he understands. She cannot make a sword herself and has no other way out, so he tries to break into her room, taking advantage of her trust. The orc asks her not to rush to such conclusions when she hears similar words. Orc says that from now on they will practice. He asks if she has blacksmith tools at home. She says she understands and asks him not to sniff or lick anything. He replies that he will try. She is indignant. Why is there no clear answer? They walk together, and in Kururu's case everything is clear. He is confident that she will quickly perfect the sword. He intervened in this and will stay with her until the very end. Karuru asks him what he will say. He, mustached and with a strange look, says that he has nothing more to teach her, so her training is over. He says that she has learned all his teachings. She thanks him, then the orc turns back to her again, and she listens attentively. He again asks her to be with him, but she firmly refuses. I absolutely do not want to, and even calls him a respected teacher. The orc clicks his tongue and walks away. Kururu grumbles and asks Tita if she saw how he clicked. Tita just shrugs. He is an orc, so nothing can be done. They locked themselves in Kujudu's house and trained her for 10 days. He tried his best, thinking that after so many days together, he would have a chance to possess her now. He realizes how naive that was. Orc says they will forget about that, and that she is now ready to create the perfect prophetic sword. She says she will try. The plans will be ready by the end of the day. Kururu gloomily says that the problem with the materials is still unresolved. No one will melt that sword. The orcs respond that then they can simply mine orichalcum. She asks him not to say that it is easy. There are plenty of monsters there. Orc says it's all right. She already knows that he is strong. Kururu adds that since he is so confident, she needs orichalcum to forge her last sword, so let's go. Orc assures that he can be relied on. Orc says he will take several pieces of metal. When asked why, he answers that Karuru must go with them, but he wants to finish the design today. They have only one choice. And the only way out here is to use them in alchemy. Kururu finally ended up on a chair attached to the orc like a backpack. The orc says there is no other way. Kururu must be seated on the chair and carried on the back. Kururu mumbles that there is definitely something wrong in his head. She screams that, as she said, monsters live there and it is dangerous, and the orc, laughing, says that carrying her on his back will not slow him down at all. Kururu, barely breathing, says she thinks so, and asks him to just tell her if it will be hard for him. The orc replies that she is about 45 kilograms and should eat better, and she asks not to decide that while carrying her on his back they seem to be heading to Mina or some halcom. In the city, the orc asks, is this sacred land? Tita says that here is solid divine steel, and everyone has luxurious homes. Kururu adds that they can all afford it, and the orc asks again if it is true that now only Kururu knows how to work orichalcum. Kururu explains, that is why people in the village live off tourism. The tourist shops belong to the Khan, who hire people there. Orc adds that the Divine Steel clan turned out to be amazingly strong. Tita asks if, since they are so rich, she could ask for a loan, and thinks for a long time. She says they are disgusting traitors, and if you ask them for a loan, you will have to do whatever they want, perhaps even entertain some celebrity who wants to meet the sword priestess, which is a real headache. The orc asks if he can hear that mysterious image of the destruction of her lineage. Kururu says, on the other hand, this can be called simple envy. Once everyone knew how to process orichalcum, so they were called a clan, but over time the blood weakened, and eventually only her family could do it. Because of this, she is despised. And they looked at her Askinsenot once or twice. She's the strongest in the village, and that is what saved her. Her children will most likely also be able to process orichalcum, like her. Everyone chases after this, marrying her simply to be called full members of the clan. It can be said that her chastity is under threat. The orc sadly says that she is struggling. It is clear why she wants to be with him, even though he tries so hard to win her over, and Karuru adds that it seems to her that in his case, no one in this world will love him. Tita asks if she was so scared that she could have done something bad. Kururu says she wasn't very worried about it. Karuru says that regarding the orc, she felt she likes him. She doesn't think he will hurt her. Strangely, it doesn't scare her. The orc proudly says that this means she loves him. She adds that it doesn't scare him, but somehow it annoys him a lot. Tita says that she seems to understand what she meant and asks if that's so, and the orc asks them to stop arguing and calm down. They step into the mine. They make their way through the dark corridor of the mine. The magical energy here is incredible. The orichalcum glows, but it is not pure enough here, so they decide to go deeper. Kuru turns around and says that it is a monster. Tata says that it is quite strong. She agrees, and adds that she feels its powerful magical energy. It turns out to be a monster with horns made of orichalcum. Tata says that she has never seen such a creepy monster in her life. The mine has been neglected for years, so most likely the Overlord was born there. Monsters feed on magical energy, and the Overlord is a demon who devoured other demons, and because of this grew to abnormal sizes. The orc tells Kukru that he will put her down for just a minute, and she shouts that this Overlord must not be underestimated. This monster can instantly destroy a village or city. No matter how strong he is still dangerous. He tells Kururu that he didn't tell her this, but in the fight with the White Knight of Roses he didn't use even a tenth of his strength, didn't use magic at all, and was already exhausted. With one fist he knocked down this huge monster. Karuru watches this in shock. Titi stands with a smile, proud of him, and the orc calls them to hurry to the deepest part. Karuru asks what he did, and more importantly how exactly he did it. The orc says it was magic, but just a little trick. Karuru asks Tata if she has ever seen an orc in full strength, and Tata answers that it happened only once. She tells him that he destroyed a creature that could destroy everything. Kururu asks if he wanted, he could destroy the world. Titus says he can. The orc declared that this is not true. Then he had opened only 2 seals, and the second releases only half of his power. But if he had not restrained himself and released all his power, he definitely knew he would not return back. In a certain sense, that was all his power. They see a huge stone. The orc says this is the deepest part, and here the purest chalcum. The girls are stunned. The orc says he feels the weapon he will make from this will be the best in the world, and he can't wait to take in his hands the sword forged for him by Karuru. Kururu says this is sacred land, guarded by her ancestors, and today she will take as much as she can, because it may happen that she will never return from here. Fire spirits gathered in one place, as befits a sword priestess, but he can also create incredible heat, although at the same time he cannot process or achakam. So what will she do next? She combines her magical energy with the power of beetles and creates a completely new magic, Kururu's flame. As soon as the Halkin reacted to Kururu's flame, it became clear to him, this is the power of the sword priestess. Orichalcum chips off Kururu. She exhales and says, so now they have all the materials they need. Tita tells her that it was incredible. Orc says that no one else could have done it. Suddenly Kururu falls right onto the orc. She laughs awkwardly and says she used more strength than she thought, and the orc replies that she did well, he will do the rest himself. They go out. Tide asks if it's okay that they left the chair here. Orc shrugs and says it's fine, he doesn't care anymore because she won't be drawing anymore. Tita says as if Kururu is starting to get used to him, he asks if it's true, but as it seemed to him, she answered rather coldly. Titus says that a girl won't lie down to sleep on the back of a person she doesn't trust, even if she is very tired, and in sleep her face is completely relaxed. Orc says he wants to see her sleeping face like that. Tita replies that he can do that as soon as they get home. Orc happily says he understands that way she will get used to him. In short, one can hope that they will be together very soon. Tita exclaims indignantly that she never said anything like that. Kururu wakes up. Tide says with a smile that she woke up, and Orc regrets that he didn't see her sleeping face. Kururu apologizes, awkwardly asks if she is heavy, says she will get down now. Orc just smiles, and replies that he doesn't mind if she stays there. Orc adds that he just wants to enjoy her softness and scent. Kururu immediately gets down. Kyoru openly says how perverted he is and agrees himself yes, he really is like that. Kyoru adds that if you close your eyes to that, he is cool, kind, and reliable. He sincerely says that he always shows these sides of himself to everyone around. Kyoru agrees and begins to talk about it. Orc asks if she really wants him to get aroused when they are alone. She screams that she didn't say that. Kyoru starts talking to Asai, asking why she should like him specifically, and suddenly falls silent. He walks away from them and says that in any case they need to go home, rest, and prepare for tomorrow. They didn't hear anything, so they just agreed. On the way, Kyoru suddenly freezes. Orc anxiously asks what happened, and they see a man in the doorway. "This is the man with fox ears," Tita whispered. "Is someone really standing in front of her house?" Karura says that this is her uncle, the one who killed her mother and ran away with their money. Orc puts his hand on her shoulder and says he will go with her. Karuru starts smiling. They go to the house. Karuru says that she also has something to tell him. The uncle saw them and told Kururu that he was waiting specifically for her. He asked if she changed the lock because he couldn't get into the house. She replied that she did it so that no thieves could get inside, and he smiled and noted that it was a good idea. Orc thinks to himself, did I not understand Kururu's sarcasm? She rudely tells him that he was brave to come to her. The uncle says that he himself regrets the past and advises her to turn that page of life. He draws his sword and tells her to look this time. He forged a really good sword because he traveled the world for the last 6 months, honing his blacksmith skills. Orc and Kururu look at him with surprise. Orc thinks, was all this just to forge some second-rate sword? Kururu says that the sword she forged is better. The uncle disagrees and says that it's nonsense. His sword is even better than the one forged by that woman, and in other words, he now considers himself the priest of the sword. Karuru asks the orc to give her back her sword. He pulls it out and hands it to her, while the uncle looks at her with contempt and says she did well for someone still learning. He decides to carefully examine the work of his dear niece. His eyes widen and he begins to sweat. The orc thinks that even a fool like him can easily understand the quality of the sword. He starts trembling and says this cannot be. Could her sword really be better than his? He shouts about the quality of the material, justifying that he had neither good nor chalcum. Kururu asks if he had nothing better, at least chalcum, so he used it as material for this worthless sword, and she suspects something. He shouts that she is right, this is her sword, which he later replaced. She knows, if it is reforged twice or with chalcum, its quality deteriorates. Kururu yells at him, what is he even talking about? Did he really reforge Mom's sword to forge this junk? She shouts that she hates him. The uncle swings the sword at her, angry that she called his sword trash. Kururu looks worried and the orc decisively steps in. When the sword falls on Kururu, the orc raises the wind and his uncle simply flies up as if he received an uppercut from below. The orc says this is an airstrike from below for raising a hand against his beloved. Karuru asks, when did I become your beloved? He answers calmly, probably within the next 3 days. She is outraged. Isn't that in the future, and where does he get such an exact date? He scares her and the orc says that since she does tsukomi like that, she is fine. The uncle stands up and asks why she complicates everything, then bows his head and thanks him because he almost killed Gururu, but first he needs to take something from her. He growls, give him all the gold and auric alchemy she has with quality materials, he can become the next sword priest. Gururu shouts that this will never happen, she is the only priestess of the sword, and has done everything possible to get what she has now. Uncle yells at her to be quiet. Does she really think she can contradict him? She exclaims that of course she can. She does not respect him and does not consider him family at all, feeling only hatred and contempt for him. She decisively says, get out of here right now. Uncle throws the sword at her again. Kururu raises her hand, and the sword begins to melt in Uncle's palms. She says she can easily smash this junk, but even with orichalcum blocks, it is much more difficult. Uncle screams madly that he knew this blood was passed to her, the blood of the Divine Steel clan, blood that he does not have. He finds it unfair that the same blood flows in him too, and broken, he says, it's useless, I can't anymore. He cannot understand why it is so cruel. He walks away, and Karuru helplessly falls to the ground. The orc asks her if she is okay. She replies that everything is fine, but she is a little scared. He tells her that if she needs strength, he is nearby, and she admits that now she is a little angry because he turned out to be reliable. The orc says he wants to hug her and asks if he may. She says it turns out he can restrain himself in such moments. She asks him to hug her. They hug. She asks to sit like this a little longer, at least until the fear lets go. The orc says, of course he can as long as he wants. Later at home, they cook dinner together and eat. Late in the office, Orc asks what Tita is doing. She says she is sleeping, and Orc understands. The orc glanced at the papers and said these were the last corrections he could notice. She replied that they would be very useful, and the orc added that he was still taught to forge swords. The orc says he never thought there would ever be a sword with which he could unleash all his power. He is very grateful to her. He wanted to reward her with money as a reward, but she insisted that it was not worth it. She said that he had already given her so much knowledge that she no longer needed more, and given their relationship, it would be strange to take money. The orc says it's true. If she were his wife, they wouldn't have to divide the property. She screams that it's not about that. He asks her what kind of relationship they have in her opinion, and she, a little confused, says, "We are more like teacher and student, not quite friends and not family, maybe lovers, but she has never known that in life." Then she adds that it seems to her, the words, "I want him to be near," better convey their essence. The orc thinks that it is very sad they are lovers, but he still feels pleased to be needed. Kururu says he is ready. What will he say? The orc begins to watch. He thinks that she complements his corrections with her ideas and makes them even better, a true genius. He believes that very soon she will surpass him in this matter. The orc tells her that it is perfect and that he has nothing more to say. She glows with happiness and shouts that she succeeded. The orc finds the smug Kururu too cute. This is a problem. Just one look from her, and her self-satisfied face makes him want to be near. The orc tells her that this is all. He returns to his room. She also needs to sleep. The sun will rise soon. Suddenly she grabs the orc's clothes, and silence falls around. She, with a trembling voice, asks him, "Will you lie with me tonight?" He looks at her with surprise. She says that, honestly, she is still a little afraid. The orc says he doesn't mind, but isn't she scared by the very thought that he will sleep with her? She says she is sure he would never do anything like that, so she will keep her promise with the pillow tail. She lies down and says she will fall asleep so that he can put his head on that tail which he adores so much. The orc sweats and lunges at Kururu. It seemed to him that that living pillow with a tail cute with fox ears behaved too boldly, as if it had claimed his orc bed. He lies down next to her. Kururu asks how he likes the tail-shaped pillow, and he says he is so happy he could die right now. She says her tail is the best in the clan, and he adds that he would call it the best in the world. Kururu says that she also feels calmer when she feels him on her tail. The orc wishes her good night. They lie down. The orc clearly enjoys it. He is sure that she really fell asleep. Isn't this a direct hint for him to finally make a move? He imagines a double. But at some point an angel appears. She says it's a kind of hint, and it would be rude to ignore her invitation. The orc is outraged. The angel must become his last restraining factor, so let him do his job. He says aloud that he does not want to betray her trust. He is not the one whose face is like Kururu's. His dark desires never fade, so he will restrain them himself until Karuru wakes up. He sighs and says, "This will be a long night." Uncle Kururu strikes the orichalcum stones, asks, "Are you here, god of misfortunes?" and calls for him to come out. He falls before him, gasping. He, with tears in his eyes, says, "Why not him?" He asks him to fulfill his wish to make him the strongest sword priest. Suddenly the stone activates and begins to sparkle. Kururu in new attire was greeted by Tato. "Good morning." Then in a positive sense asked what kind of outfit it was, because she considers it very beautiful, and said that it is the ceremonial robe of the sword priestess to release all her power, and that it was sewn for her mother. She shyly says that it does not suit such a short girl like her. The orc with a tired face replies that it is nonsense and it suits her. Kururu asks if he is tired. He says that now, having seen her smile, he is glad he did not let those two do whatever they wanted. She does not understand what he means. Kururu asks if it is a compliment that she looks good. He replies that not at all, because a girl who needs compliments would not have yielded to his persuasion. Kururu thought to himself and says that if it suits her so well it means she has gained a little weight. They go down the stairs. Kururu says that only the perfect oracle sword remains to be forged and impatiently asks them to wait, and they say that they will definitely wait. The orc snapped his fingers. The fairies appeared. He said he had gathered all the fire spirits here, so now she could use more power than usual. Kururu smiles and says it's time to forge the perfect sword of the oracle. She immediately gets to work. But the noise distracts very sharply, just like Quark and Tita. She approaches the door and mutters, "What is going on here?" She tried to concentrate. She opens the door and asks if it is urgent. She sees soldiers in front of her. They shout that they have a big trouble because someone broke the seal of the god of misfortunes. She is shocked and says that this is nonsense. The vessel of the seal is made of orichalcum. It can only be destroyed. The soldier replies that an order also came from above to bring her. She shouts that it is not her. He says that they will have to interrogate them anyway. The orc comes out and loudly declares that Kururu is innocent, then asks if they know that her uncle recently appeared. The soldiers whisper as if he defeated the Knight of the White Rose, so why is he here? They think it is for the sword of the oracle. The orc says they have been together since yesterday, so she has a perfect alibi. The orc sternly asks them, if the god of misfortunes is free, then what are they even doing here? The soldier awkwardly and uncertainly says that he is only following orders and begins to go into details, but the orc interrupts him. I am going to the seal. This god of misfortunes does not give me peace. In the worst case, several countries will be destroyed. Kirulu shouts that she will go with him, but Orc sharply refuses and orders her to forge the sword. He says that if the worst of his assumptions comes true, he will need the sword of the oracle. He shouts to everyone that he is leaving and asks Tita to stay here. She agrees and obeys. Kiruru shouts that she will give all her strength to forge the perfect sword of the oracle, and he will definitely get it. Orch smiled and moved forward, thinking, if this is Uncle Kararu's business, then what is his motive? What did this worthless creature do? He thinks whether he tried to prove something to himself by renewing the seal of the god of misfortunes, but failed and rejects this idea. Yesterday, he told Kururu that he is useless, even if he did what he planned, that is, renewed the seal. Then how could he be better than Kururu? Most likely, he turned to the god of misfortunes with a request. Give me the power to surpass Kururu, to become a sword priest or something like that. Orc suddenly froze. He realized, the god of misfortunes will fulfill this wish in the worst possible way. He approaches the village and sees corpses. Orc says that Uncle Kururu was obsessed with the idea of creating the most powerful sword. He wanted to forge the best sword in the world, and that is how he fulfilled his dream. He sees and says that he himself became the strongest sword in the world. Indeed, Uncle Kururu became an independent sword that lives only to cut. Uncle Kururu makes all kinds of sounds, both cutting and whipping. His eye is forged right on the blade. He looks at Orc with hatred, and Orc responds excitedly. This uncle instantly runs up to the soldier and presses blades to him. The soldier freezes in shock, does not move. The blades wrap around his neck. He manages only to utter a short sound, when suddenly the orc pushes him with a sword. The soldier hiccups from fear. The orc shouts at them to run, and asks not to call reinforcements. He is sure they will only get in the way. The orc tells him that he is agile. He asks this because the god of misfortunes has possessed him. He only wants to slash. Their blades clash. The orc realizes that the monster, who lives only by the desire to slash, will be a complete doom for Uncle Kururu. They rush into attack and simultaneously parry each other's strikes. The orc guesses that before him is the god of misfortunes in a distorted form. He has already placed the spirit mark on both hands to summon the power of the wind and accelerate, and it is terrifying that he has to do this just to catch up with the speed of this creature. The enemy is made of orichalcum. Magical attacks against him are useless, and although he expends energy and gets tired, he does not become slower. If this continues, it will be very bad. The orc's sword begins to crack, and he rejoices that he cut through his sword and that he is generally the strongest. The orc, calling him a vile puppet, barked that it is too early to rejoice. He will pour all the power of both spiritual marks, his magical energy, his will, everything he has into the sword as much as he can, so that maybe he can fight and not let the sword get damaged. He attacked and left a scratch on his uncle, says the orc. Even if you rely on the power of the god of misfortune, Karuru's sword is still the best. The uncle attacks again, thinks the orc. Has he really recovered? No, he has turned into a sharper and stronger blade, becoming the mightiest sword. The god fulfilled this wish now. I will no longer be able to fight this sword on equal terms. Will that trump card that will help him defeat the enemy reach him in time? Kururu tirelessly works on the sword. Forging is not just a job. The product must be infused with heart and soul. Kururu feels every hammer strike it, obeys her to forge the sword her mother dreamed of. Strangely, she hopes that the one who openly told him about her feelings will consider this sword worthy of battle. She pours everything she has into the sword. Kururu cannot think of anything except it, and she works tirelessly. What kind of boys does she like? When she thought about it, she realized she actually has no particular preferences, because she considered them terrible creatures who approached her only because she was a priestess. Although the orc behaves strangely, she was not afraid of him. He is reliable, kind, and fun to be with. He makes our hearts beat faster. She fills the sword with her feelings, lies down and says, I am finished. She wonders why she behaves this way. When she thinks about him, it is so strange. She never imagined she would feel like this, especially about someone like an orc. She opens the door. Tita asks if she is finished. She replies that everything is ready and that he is completely ready, just perfect. Tita says that then they must run to the orc immediately. It seems he has big problems. Kururu asks her about it. The soldiers tell her that it seems someone made a wish to the god of misfortune, and his body turned into a living sword of orichalcum. Now the hero fights and restrains him, but he is in a worse position. Both moved forward, and Kururu just realized how the one who makes a wish can change like that, and what courage the orc needs to rush at such creatures. Kururu shouts at him, what a weirdo he is, how fearless he is. He could have just run away. Tita tells her that he is just the way he is. She adds if he leaves this creature alive, she might come for her. She awkwardly says that she is not even his lover, she simply refused him. Tita believes it does not matter because the orc does it because he likes her. Tita explains that in her case it was the same. She asked herself the same questions, and when she asked him, he only said that he wants her to live with a smile on her face. She thinks she fell in love with him precisely because of who he is. Kururu says he was just pretending to be cool, but she already feels the orc is not just a talker. She does not understand why she keeps thinking about him. He still talks about creating a harem and seems strange to her, but when she said that he loves her, he always told the truth, and she remembers every one of his actions. She asks Tita if all this talk about a harem does not repel her. Doesn't she want to be the only one for him? Tita replies that of course she wants that, which is why she initially refused him. She says that he fought risking his life just like now, because that's who he is. She knew that he would love her and make her happier than anyone she would meet after that. She says that even if she is not the only one, Kururu adds that it was precisely in those moments, when he tried to do something with her, that he truly loved her. Karuru sincerely thanks her and begs for forgiveness. She asks why, and the other replies that it is precisely thanks to her that she understood a lot. She apologizes again for falling in love with that very boy, and Titus says he does not care because it is her. Smiling, she says that she is happy. She says that maybe now she understands her feelings, and again she asks for forgiveness for something else. Kyudaru says that it is obvious the orc can make them both happy, but she will do everything to be his number one. Titus says that she can say the same, and she also strives for that. They run to him together, smiling with happiness. Yokoryu thinks that she must give the forged sword to someone dear to her. The orc raises the sword, suddenly realizes that they have been fighting for an hour, and thinks about how much stronger and faster he can still become, while the uncle in the form of a sword only wants to kill him. He spins all around, and each time attacks in a new way. The orc uses an iron wall, he breaks through it. But the orc lifted a giant piece of earth, and with a crash dropped it on him, pinning him to the ground. The orc waits, but the uncle himself emerges from under the ground. The orc realizes he passes through everything, and it doesn't even give him a chance to buy time. He looks at his hands and understands. The spirit signs are fading, he has about 2 minutes left, and the uncle notices that the orc is tired and decides that this is his chance to kill him. The orc is about to use the strongest sword technique. It actually has divine speed, or simply put, it is an advanced slicing strike. It is called EI, an instant sword strike from the sheath. Uncle breaks through their attacks, the orc's sword breaks. He laughs and shouts, could this really be the strongest sword? That it suits better than Karuru. The orc admits to him that his sword is better than this one. But does he know that now Kururu can forge an even better sword? He shouts to Kururu, asking if it's true. At that moment, Tita and Kururu rush at him with a knife. Kururu throws him the sword in its sheath and exclaims that he is finally ready, adds that this is their shared sword. Uncle shouts Kururu, the orc catches her sword. Suddenly, Uncle ran up to Kyujuru and tried to attack, but the orc instantly intervened and stopped him. The orc addresses Uncle, if you are truly the strongest sword in the world, cut the Karu sword, not hers. If there is even a grain of pride of a representative of divine steel in you, arrange the final frontal battle. Uncle says this is interesting, he is sure. First, he will break the Karuru sword, and then break Karuru herself. The orc thoughtfully reflects and carefully analyzes this. His right hand is extremely clenched. This strength is many times stronger than what he showed before. The orc suggested to Kururu to do it together, and they together grabbed the new sword. Kururu's flame enveloped the cloak, and he transformed into a destroyer of orichalcum. Kururu asks if she can ask why he is doing all this after all. It is because of her that his body is in such a terrible condition. The orc replies that he could not just take them and run away because he wanted to protect Kururu's dream. Karuru asks in what sense not her, but her dream. He says that if he only wanted to protect her, the safest thing would have been to just take her and run away, and she does not understand why. The orc explains that she wanted to restore the seal together with her mother. The god of misfortunes has now inhabited the body of this sword, and if they kill him with her sword, the seal will definitely return. Perhaps this time he will disappear forever. If not, her dream will never come true. Kururu suddenly laughed and asked if he was a fool, saying his brain must have melted from thinking so much. She gently kisses him on the cheek and says she likes him very much. If he, as he said, protects her dream, then he should expect more from her. The orc says he understands her, so it's time to finish. Uncle Karuru attacks him and shouts that he is definitely the best. The orc apologizes and this disappoints him, but he is wrong about that. He is sure of it and begins. The speed became higher than before. It seems he will have to give all his strength. 3 orc seals hold him, and he breaks the first because he studied the seals and learned their true power. Now he can raise the power in the first to the maximum, but only for 8 seconds. He uses the double spirit sign, but it is not enough for him, and his love for Kururu emerges in his mind. The strike hit, Uncle repeats several times that he is the best, and then lifelessly collapses and falls to the ground. The orc says that he just cut through his very essence along with the god of misfortune. The girls joyfully rush to him, and the orc greets his new friend the sword. The girls rush to the orc and shout that it was incredible in their lives. They have never seen such beautiful and lightning-fast movements. It was the best strike. The orc is shocked. He did not think they would even notice the sword. In fact, he put everything he had into that strike. The speed of the sword exceeded even the speed of sound, and the eye simply could not catch such speed. Tita asks, "Didn't I say that those jade eyes are a feature of the high elves?" She says that she is just a fox, and the orc asks if that is her explanation. The orc insists on moving forward, saying that Kururu won't manage what she promised, and the rest don't even understand what exactly needs to continue. Tata asks Kururu if she didn't tell the orc that she would do exactly that to him when he dealt with that puppet saber. Kururu, surprised, asks again, didn't she do the same when he risked his life for her? Kururu says that it seemed to her that they are similar in some way. Tita asks if the orc forced her to do it. He says nothing of the sort. The orc says he learned a few techniques, but she sees. He rather wants the girls to fall in love with him themselves. Manipulating their feelings would ruin their charm, so he won't do that. Tita tells Karuru that she sincerely wishes her all the best because the orc is truly amazing in everything. Karuru asks what she means by, he is amazing in everything. The orc takes Karuru's hand and says they must hurry back. Karuru wonders why he is so abrupt. He replies that this way they will get there faster if he carries her. She wonders how much he is in a hurry. Tita stays in place, then approaches them, wading through the water. The orc tells her that he hasn't stopped fantasizing since last night when she let him lie on her tail pillow, and assures that he will definitely fulfill all her wishes. Kuru shouts again that even if he says so, she still won't understand what they are going to do until he explains. The orc tells her not to worry, she will teach her everything. Kuru tells him that sometimes he has a paternal aura. They returned home, and Kuru says she feels a bit embarrassed when he looks at her like that. She remembers telling him that she likes him, but feels like a small animal frozen before a predator about to eat her. The orc joke says he will eat her and calls Karuru a little fox. She recoils and says she feels disgusted. The orc tells her that if she is really afraid of his gaze, one word is enough and they can do it later. She says that is unfair. If she says it with such an upset face, it will be even harder for her to refuse him. She tells him, do whatever you want. He thanks her and says he will do everything with great pleasure. He truly considers Kuro incredibly cute. A harem can be called a harem even if there is only one girl in it, and although now that Kuro has joined him, he feels satisfied, it is still not enough for him. This is only the beginning of his intention to create the perfect harem. In the morning he wakes up, glances out the window, and drinks coffee. He smiles slyly at the thought that this incredible feeling the harem is created, and they are both long-eared and charming, cute creatures, an elf and a fox with a fluffy tail. For him, this is a great start. He invented a new laugh that suits an orc. It sounds like cuckoo cuckoo. It reeks of orc, and he will use it in his best moments. He hesitates whether to go prepare breakfast and looks at the sleeping Karuru, and decides to do something before that. He grabbed her by the tail. He thinks how happy he is now he can enjoy this fluffiness whenever he wants. He smiles as he informs his dear parents that he has officially started creating his harem. There are so many memories in this city. He was lucky to obtain the Oracle Sword and meet Kururu, but his main goal is to become the king of the harem. So it is time to set off to another city. Orc Tita and Kuru were walking through the city surrounded by high mountains. In the middle of the city there were food stalls, one had meat hanging, another had other dishes. There were few people. Kuru asks if they are already leaving the city. Orc answers affirmatively. She says that next week there will be a parade in honor of the hero's birth, and he grumbled that they can do without the parade. Karuru says he is strange, although he is a hero of the country and could easily gain power and money if he wanted. He desires none of it. Tita just smiles and says there will be countless girls. The orc firmly said that he did not like Ith, did not want the girls to throw themselves at him just because he was a hero, as he could earn the necessary money himself, and had no desire for power at all. If even something from this interested him, he would simply become the king of Forland. They look at him with surprise. Karuru asks again what he just said, and he replies, if I wanted power, I would simply become the king of Forland. They ask in surprise if he means the super kingdom of Forland, and how he could possibly become their king. He replies that he is a member of the royal family of Forland. Kururu says he is a liar. Tita says it is about an orc may be true, and the orc declares, orcs do not lie. The orc feels that he is unlikely to convince them that he is not Lingand. He still does not want to become king. Instead of caring for the welfare of thousands of subjects, he He would rather protect, love, and make his loved ones happy. Korova screams with delight, what beauty here. She is leaving the village for the first time, and it simply enchants her. The orc says that first they will go to another human city. The orc thinks that wandering aimlessly is a futile endeavor. As soon as he returns to the city, he will save money and set out to find the best girls. He says to Tati, "Honestly, I am going to start a new business." She asks if he will sell katsu again. He answers, "No." The orc says that the new business will be simply gigantic. At the trading post, Karuru shouted, "Look, they set up tents to prepare dinner," and the orc suggested having dinner. While they eat, the orc thinks about other routes to the city, but he didn't choose the caravan just like that. The orc notices something and looks at it seriously. They ask him if something is wrong. He replies that everything is fine, then sees a silhouette in a hat and wonders if they really took the bait. A man approaches, asks if he can sit. He allows it. The orc feels that now he will have to act businesslike, change not only his manner of speaking, but also his way of thinking. He introduced himself as Fyodor Zenalik. Honestly, he is a merchant, and the orc said that was too modest because he had heard about the company, Zenalik. Zenalik says that he is not just a traveling merchant, but a famous trader. He has trading points in many cities that together form a network worldwide. The orc said he knew this caravan was connected to his company, but who would have thought he would sit here and talk with Mr. Zenalik himself? The merchant says, it's unbelievable how much he knows about him. Few young people can achieve such success as the orc master from Orkatsu. The orc became famous for his cutlets and anticipated that someone would approach him professionally, but he did not expect such a big shot as Mr. Fyodor to respond. Tita asks if it just started. Karuru replies that it's business, and they are biting apples. The orc says he is just a young man and has only managed to create one popular product. Fyodor agrees, but adds that he values more the ability to turn a product into a brand and sell the entire brand. The most important thing is to continue in the same spirit, and he can only say that it was a brilliant decision. The orc tells him that he himself is very knowledgeable, and he replies that yes, because he interested him. He says that he is so young, so talented. He asks because he thinks he earned too little. The orc says that, as you probably guess, he was not just trying to get his attention. He has one profitable idea. Fedorov says he listens carefully. The orc says there is a limit to how big a business one can build alone, and he hoped to find a patron for a powerful company with sales worldwide and its own information network. Fedorov claps the Serb and Spring Treat. He says he hoped to talk to him about business since he noticed that he was traveling with one of his caravans. The orc says that in such moments it is best to talk over good drinks. Fedorov tells the girls to help themselves and asks if they are in love. They answer yes. Drink the beverage, Tita says. What is this? It is so tasty, and Kururu also thinks it is a wonderful drink. The orc feels that this is not all and he quite likes it. Apparently, he had been carefully watching the shops where he usually bought and knows his tastes. He asks him since when he has been watching him, and he answers, even before his debut with cutlets. He says that it was then he saw how he got to work in Forlum, started with 10 million gills, and already after 3 months doubled his profits. The orc awkwardly stammers and says that that is exactly how he knew it. In fact, that is how the god of trade Randall evaluated his abilities. Fedorov says that at first he was shocked and too caught up in the details of the situation, but immediately applied the theory in practice, and he succeeded. Hesitantly and suspiciously, he tells him that once he sold everything so easily and disappeared without a trace. He clenches his fists and asks why, insisting that he say why he quit that business. He sighs and answers that it was just a test invented by his mentor. He says it was a test. In 3 months he had to double the profits. In the end, he showed much better results, but when the test ended, he no longer had the desire to continue. The man asks him in surprise if he really started the whole thing and quit just because he passed the test. He laughs awkwardly and says he is really shocked. It's not at all what he imagined. He adds that something about it reminds him of someone. The man asks who. He replies that it reminds him of Health Randall, his only rival. The orc chokes on his drink, smiles awkwardly, sweat is dripping from him, and says that actually it is his mentor. The man's eyes open wide. After a long pause, he laughs loudly and sincerely. He repeats twice that he understands he is his student, so such a thing under his eye is quite natural. The girls freeze in surprise, and the orc looks at him calmly and smiling. The man turns his head to the orc and says that the picture is starting to come together. He already feels sorry. He raised such an outstanding student, and now he is just letting him go. The orc replies that the mentor told him to open new businesses one after another, also that the mentor himself could achieve his goal. The man asks if he can ask him, and he replies that he can, and now he will tell you everything. The orc says enthusiastically that to travel, meet the best girls, and then create a harem, he wants to open a business to live peacefully with his women. Fedorov spits out the drink that was in his mouth. Leaning his head against his post, he said that he refused the business with such a prospect, rejected Randall's offer, and because of this now asks him to become his business partner. He raises his head and says sternly, "Does he really mean that I should trust a man who starts a business but puts his harem above everything?" Tita and Kururu look at him awkwardly. The orc calmly closes his eyes, as if preparing to give a powerful answer. He shouts at him that this is exactly why he asks to trust him. He has more important matters than creating a business, so he needs partners to whom he could offer profitable ideas. Fedorov continues to look at him. The orc looks no less serious, even with an offended look. The man again bowed his head to the post, and after a minute of silence said that it was logical, agreed to listen to his plan, and asked to tell more. The orc gets up from the bench, takes out a backpack, pulls out several papers from it, and hands them to the man for review. The man smiled and spoke exactly, as befits a student of Randall Kelf. His mustache even twitched. He says that it will be profitable and that he has thought everything through very well, adds that without him the plan will not succeed and he would lose part of the profit, so it is a good plan, and he repeats this. The orc listens to all this, and then with a slight smile asks him what he ultimately decided. Fedorov gets up from his seat and says that, of course, he agrees, returns the papers to him, and adds that if he had refused, he would have turned to another merchant. When he asks if that is so, the orc replies that, in his opinion, they have agreed. The man enters his caravan, where guards stand. Nearby stand Tita and Kururu, and the orc himself bows to him in farewell. Tita asks him what business he plans to start with him. Kuru says that the papers were a bit confusing, so she also did not understand anything, and the orc calmly says that they will soon find out everything. The orc thinks, honestly, it is not easy to explain in this matter. He relies on knowledge from a past life. The caravan sets off from the city. The orc mentally considers large-scale plans to start this huge project.